Welcome to the Visual Cast. Coming at you from California, I'm Alon Hammer, AKA Rim. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We chat about life, art, visuals, software, hardware, systems, spirituality. It's basically a massive nerd out. But the guests also do a set where we dive into their computer and get an up-and-close look at how they make art, how they perform art, or really anything they want to share. We have an extremely special guest for episode 13, one of the godfathers of modern-day visuals, Lumi, formerly Martin Stebbing AKA Doubleyou. Lumi is the undeniable OG of high-fidelity 3D generative visuals, headlining at the best festivals across the world and making content for some of the biggest brands and artists for the past 20-plus years. He is also known for giving his state-of-the-art visuals away for free in an open-source vein, and uploading his entire library of over 40 terabytes called Santa's Reindeer. In this insanely inspiring and authentic conversation, we get into Lumi's pursuit of new and powerful technologies and the inspirations throughout the years. From opening a visual studio at the advent of the Berlin visual scene and guerrilla projections at the Bergheim, to being obsessed with rendering and cutting-edge technology. We talk about the invention or discovery of Superflow, together with Ian Clemer, simulations and the power of nature and organics, having his visuals be an inspiration for the killer TV show Devs, mocap magic and the beauty of motion and movement, having a life-changing experience that culminated into changing his name, and the extremely powerful notion of dark suck theory. For W's set, we check out the super powerful Xeno Dream and the way it's used to make insanely cool looking fractal-esque point clouds and how to export them as 3D printing ready files. I can't express enough how much love I have for this man, how much he has inspired me and how much he has supported me and so many others throughout our careers. His ability to simultaneously be prophetic, authentic, and humble is extremely potent, and when emulated creates a super-flowing powerful force of good. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anybody you think will enjoy this convo and showcase. And without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Welcome to the podcast, Lumi, formerly Martin Stebbing AKA Doubleyou.
Thank you very much, Alan. It's great to be here. Thanks for the kind and beautiful words. I'm excited about this, and look forward to see where this goes.
We're gonna have an amazing conversation here. Let's jump right into it. So let's start off with the first question, Mr. Dr. Stebbing. You are the OG inspiration to so many of us. Your level of cinematic quality renders, evoking mass emotion, thoughts, and ideas is something I strive for in my visuals and is directly inspired by you. Your visual pack, specifically the DMT pack, is synonymous with psychedelic imagery, and I literally have seen it used by every single VJ I have ever met, including ones at the tippy top. We won't name their names, but you know who they are. You even gave them away for free out of a higher belief in sharing knowledge. You've performed on the biggest stages in the world, projection mapped iconic buildings and structures, created content for massive brands, events, artists, and you have always been on the bleeding cutting edge of technology. Not once slowing down and always pushing it to the limits. Your kindness, compassion, generosity is synonymous with your name, and anyone who has met you in person can vouch for that being the truth. Even though we are friends and I love you very much, having you on here is a massive honor and extremely exciting. So to start off, knowing your visual packs are out there, being used probably, right now, and they're on every VJ's hard drive, and it's being shown somewhere at some point. What does this consistent inspiration to so many artists mean for you?
Well, first off, thanks for the kind words, Ellen. That's very beautiful of you to say those nice things. And yes, the whole sharing thing has really meant a lot to me, actually. So first off, the DMT pack that was sent out, what, six? Oh, well, it's actually
Way more.
further than that. Way more, yeah, it's ages ago, actually. That there were another few packs. There was like a reindeer pack connected
Santa's
to Christmas. Santa's reindeer. They found something in the forest. Nobody knew really what it was. So there were some competitions where this was released, and yeah, that kind of inspired me to go all the way and release pretty much all of the content of Graded, or let's say the main load of it weighs in at almost 4 terabytes. I think it's 4,000 clips or something. Yeah, it means a lot. It really does, and it's been as you say, just the fact that it's being shown somewhere in the world right now is quite it's quite amazing. In a way, this whole immortalization somehow that I've achieved by releasing my life work, 15-20 years of clicking away at the mouse, feels good. It does, but it was a huge step to do it, of course, to just like, okay, I want to obviously capitalize somehow on all my work, but selling clips one a piece, I got lots of requests, when I started getting into that. And it just quickly seemed like too massive a task to like, sell small cushion packs. So I just released it.
I think it's beautiful, and really, like, me before I even met you or knew who you were, the DMT pack was my go-to always. I think it's been around since 2012 or 2013, something like that. It's been a while. It really elevated my career. It really gave me the confidence and the kind of aesthetic that I wanted to strive for in my art. So I'm massively grateful for you for that. So I want to jump back a little bit to little Lumi. Your childhood in Denmark, right? Did you grow up in Denmark? I'm not really sure about that. You did.
I did. Yes.
You did. What was it like?
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in Denmark? Did you grow up around art, or kind of were you into art from a young age? What was what was it kind of like growing up in Denmark? Yeah.
It was good. When I think back on my childhood and the early years, it just in a little suburb just north of Copenhagen called Hellerup. I think back on some pretty happy days, actually. The sun shine in the summertime, and in the wintertime it was cold. It was all a bit more simple back then. And my brother Mark, being 3 years younger than I am, he was there as well, obviously, at some point. And we moved when I was 9. I was 9 years old. We moved to the countryside north of Zealand, where Copenhagen is based. And it's been good, but there really hasn't been any creative input from my parents in that sense. Well, that being said, and I have to thank my dad again here for buying, well, both of them were probably involved in it, but for getting me a ZX Spectrum on Christmas Eve, my 7th Christmas Eve. I got the Spectrum.
What is that
colors,
for? What is
the ZX Spectrum? It's one of the first personal computers.
Oh, cool.
And it was a step up from the ZX80 and the ZX81. They were released in those years. I think 79 or 80. The ZX80 came out, and the Spectrum came out in 81 or 82, and 82 was when I got it, being 7 years old.
Wow.
It's quite a thing. It even has like a little rainbow down in the corner. So sadly, I don't have mine anymore. I think, to be honest, my brother and I smashed it with a hammer when we got the Commodore 64.
You're like, fuck this. I love that.
Silly.
That's annoying.
I do actually have a ZX80 vintage machine. I want to power it up one day. As far as I recall, it was so slow. It was black and white. 1K of memory, it was so slow that when you pressed one of the buttons, the screen kind of went, blacked out for a few milliseconds.
That's really great.
I had to turn it on to confirm that. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you were like kind of a little bit of a nerd from a young age, very into these kind of computers and playing around with them. Was it creative art specific, or was it more of like, technology interest and
technology interests, gaming as well.
Gaming.
Like my very first game, The Hobbit. Had,
oh yeah, wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It had 7 JPEGs, 7 images. Might have been another format, but 7 images in the whole game. It was a text-based adventure.
Yeah.
And you started like in The Hobbit then, and you would have to go like open green door, go
Right.
north. So, but then I actually also got kind of into coding a bit.
Oh.
Basic was the language of kind of beginner entry level
Yeah.
stuff.
First. Yeah.
I coded a couple of assembly code games by following the text in the magazine, just coding hexadecimal for like, and you couldn't save it.
You
So
couldn't save
actually, I
it?
had some of my dad's friends. They were software developer, whiz kids, and they wrote a little application for my Spectrum so I could save the hex code. Because some of these things, they were like 20 A4 pages of hex code.
Wow.
So you kind of you could just type it in, play the game, and then when you turn off the power, it would be gone.
That's crazy.
So I guess already at the early age, I was kind of, wow, okay, interesting, and even more interesting to have a tool set that makes things easier.
Yeah.
And especially a tool set that no other people really had their hands on unless they coded it themselves.
Right. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, the ability to save your work is kind of crucial to the things that we do, right? Although maybe not, sometimes, I mean, all the real-time stuff that I do and you're involved in as well is not really saved technically, right? It's kind of like ephemeral in some way.
Yeah, true. That is true. And it's an interesting subject, actually. One guy that I met during my time in Berlin, he never saved any of his work, and he was really a genius. He did these daily images. Whoa, super advanced technical user. And he was like, no, I don't save anything. I will make something better tomorrow.
Right.
So, yeah,
It's a pretty intense philosophy to have, I would say.
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what was your first or earliest memory, or maybe strongest memory that you can attest to kind of making an art piece, or, it's a very broad kind of word, but, something creative that was kind of intended not as like a experiment of like technology, but more of like an intentional thing as like an art piece?
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is a school assignment. It was a chair, actually, so not very artistic, but just the kind of the fact you see. I found it recently going through my storage room. I found this chair that I've been like 10 years old or something when I made it, and a few other things that I made physically, some clay sculpting stuff.
Wait, you mean you made a chair, like a physical chair?
Yeah,
Or you drew
a
a
pretty
chair?
simple one, like a threaded, like wooden frame, and then some thread going around.
Wow,
it.
that's cool.
It took quite a while, but it's still there. It's in my basement actually. So
Good old Denmark education system. I like that.
yeah. So, but I kind of in the whole like art classes, I never really. Yeah, I think I got a 0.3 in one of the more recent class or grades.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't do it for me, It was
didn't do
so
it.
boring.
Interesting. Okay,
that
and then
changed.
when you, I want to get to that. Like, what was the catalyst for that change? You went to school, right? Did you go to university?
I didn't go to university. I
didn't?
finished. I finished normal high school. I suppose is the U.S. equivalent.
Okay.
Then the gymnasium. Maybe that's. I'm not sure how these things kind of.
Yeah,
relate,
but you finished your, high school, whatever that means. And
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you didn't go to school, and then so tell me, what was the catalyst from like this kind of nerdy interest to emphasize art? Emphasizing art or
Yeah,
emphasizing aesthetic in
yeah.
some way.
Well, so when I finished my school gymnasium, being around 18, I got a job as in a voice response company, and it was basically working in a software called Show and Tell, connecting node-based, connecting with the boxes. So when people call into a telephone line, for some commercial or something, they can press one if they want to vote for
Right.
competition or whatever.
Right.
So coded that stuff, and there I was, also building my own computers, because that's a big part of it. The whole kind of tech
Hardware.
expertise of building computers, hardware up. I built all of my machines myself, up to the point where I had 25 computers running in two racks, in a cool server room and all that stuff.
I remember that room.
Yeah, lots of clicking. Yeah, I actually should, lots and lots of clicking. So that it almost became an obsession, just to keep the farm operational. When everything was green, be it in 3D Studio Max or Houdini or Woo or whichever program that became like a big thing. But that's somewhere later down the line, of course. So just to jump back to the question, the actual moment or the catalyst for my dive into art space was when I moved to Berlin.
Uh-huh.
And there was a friend of mine, Lars Kusk. He was already down there a little while before, doing design for various things, fashion and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I started working at his place as his assistant. And he then, a few months later, I got a gig at a place called Culture Box in Copenhagen. And this was in 2000. Yeah, this was in 2004, I guess. 2004.
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. So I worked 3 months of that show.
Uh-huh.
And it was, I think, a 15-minute pre-recorded loop. And went up there, funnily enough, just a little detail. I set it rendering on the 1, 2, 3 machines I had at the moment. And then I went to Albert Hoffman's 100th birthday in Switzerland, in Basel.
No way.
While the machines rendered. Yeah, there was like this LSD symposium where, people from all over the world came. Quite fascinating, and to actually meet Albert and
Wow.
Shugin and all these guys, Alex, Gray, and there was a lot of cool people there. And I got back. That particular render, the Mega render, had failed.
Oh,
But,
no.
It was like 90 hours of just still calculating the light cache or something.
Terrible.
But long story short, I did the show for Raum, a German techno artist that performed in Copenhagen, and it was cool. And that shortly thereafter, actually, I was already in Berlin, but I realized, wow, I like doing this. This kind of makes sense. I had done a 6 month, first a 6 month basic education at a school called Schulmax in Copenhagen.
Mm-hmm.
Just learning basic 3D Studio Max.
Okay, so
And,
3D, general 3D stuff.
General 3D stuff, and it was pretty basic though, but it was still cool. It was like the stepstones that got me into to
So
where
this
I am
show,
today,
this show that you
basically.
were doing, was it like would you consider it a VJ show, or was it more just like you were making content and it was playback? This is like early days. I don't even know. I don't think Resolume was around.
Early days, yeah. It actually wasn't until, I guess, 2011 or 12 that I started messing around with Resolume and with real time, with
Right.
VJing actually.
Right, mixing and things like that.
Mixing, yeah. Until that point, I did all the mixing in Sony Vegas. So I rendered
Oh,
clips,
so you would
recorded video,
pre-rendered.
pre-rendered. Some of the loops are like 1.5 hour, 2 hours long.
Wow.
And that's kind of enough for most things. I did show in 2010 in Copenhagen, 40,000 people, maybe 50 in the center of the city in a park.
Mhm.
And there's a pretty cool video of that online actually. It's almost kind of it. It's called But yeah, all pre-rendered. And the funny thing is that people didn't know. So when we filmed, our own, footage of the event, they didn't know that that a SLR camera could record video. So they're thinking we're taking pictures of them, but no, it was video. So it's quite interesting.
That's really funny. It's so interesting, like this early times when like technology is like blowing up, right? The internet's around, and you get like, you're moving on from like the 1 kilobit RAM memory to, personal computers and Windows 2000, Windows 98, Windows XP. That you had, but it's still very early, right? There's no Resolume. Like video mixing is kind of like a concept that's like more of a hardware-based thing, right? You have inputs and you can mix inputs. Do you kind of remember like the foreshadowing of this kind of thing of like, okay, so you get to this, Berlin studio, art studio, and was it like a video art kind of Berlin studio, or was it more traditional art?
More traditional, like illustrator stuff.
Illustration.
Excuse me, for commercials, flyers, t-shirt design.
So,
the kind of
Yeah. So like, what was kind of the, like, what got you into the idea of, VJing maybe is not a concept yet. Mapping, I think video mapping did exist, but on a very rudimentary level. What kind of got you into this realm? This gig seems like it was some sort of catalyst to like, okay, I can start this as a career, or I really enjoy this. But like, what was the first thing that you saw that was like, oh, that's visuals. That's like video art, like, that made you even think to even try something like that?
And good question.
It's tough.
It goes way back. It goes really back before. I remember this is really like an early memory back to the Spectrum days, probably. My dad taking me to see one of his colleagues and showing me a program. And I don't know, I've been like 6, 7, 8 years old probably, and seeing this Spectrum or whatever kind of hardware they had, running a very rudimentary, I don't know if it was 3D Max at that time. It was one of the very first 3D modeling suites, wireframe, and there was a wine glass. And I kind of got fascinated about the whole thing at that point already, I suppose. But then the first show, I mean, the whole German festival scene kind of propelled me to move to Germany in 2004. Yeah, I think there weren't many visuals before that. I did some parties in Thailand and stuff, full moon party and such, but visuals weren't really, it was all blacklight and candles.
Yeah. So in the previous parties you did in Thailand, were you projecting imagery, or was it more of just like lighting and things like that?
Not at that time. No, this was way before. Actually, my first parties were in 96 in Copenhagen. And then I went to Thailand probably 97, 98 for the full moon parties back then. They were pretty cool, but visuals, I didn't see any of it. Yeah,
no, I don't think I don't think it was kind of prevalent. Definitely not in the psytrance, full moon party world.
No. I remember one thing very clearly. That was the Wu Festival in Germany. The godfather, basically, of all festivals. Not the oldest one, but really one that back then in the beginning of end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, it was pretty epic. I can't remember which year they did their first laser show. But before that, it was just really like that, a black light and a fire art.
Yeah,
it was.
I mean, you had visuals at like Pink Floyd concerts and things like this, like like big rock events. Maybe like not real time graphics or 3D graphics, but the the liquid light guys with the with all those a camera looking at like a liquid basin and playing with all those kind of things. I would consider that visuals for sure, but definitely not what we do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting to actually combine that. Sorry to interrupt,
no, please.
But
Please.
One really, really cool thing. So friends of mine in Copenhagen called Photon, they did all their visuals like that. So they were actually already on the scene, the party scene and the techno trance scene in Copenhagen doing visuals.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, merged into what they were doing. And I kind of remember which year they did their first laser show. But before that, it was just really like that, a black light and a fire art. it was.
Yeah.
I mean, Uh, and the funny thing is their setup, it was like massive. The truckloads of machines, heavy machinery, dangerous liquids like mercury, for instance.
Oh my
They had a
God.
really cool installation, and they still have the machine. They've updated it, I think, where it's actually a piece of mercury that's floating in like a membrane, and then it has light from below.
Oh,
So
wow.
it projects the metal onto your surface. And when you put
Sounds
this machine
sick.
on top of a speaker, so I saw
Oh,
that,
it
and that must
resonates?
have been back in, oh my God, it's like a liquid, it liquefies, it's a liquefied expression of music.
That's
and it's
wild.
perfect.
Wild.
Yeah, but it's a dangerous thing to move around. They dropped it at some point, and they had shattered mercury all over the place.
That's scary.
So I didn't actually film it in 240 FPS, but it's not enough at all. You need like thousands of FPS to get that thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, sorry.
No worries. I wanna move to the present a little bit, or at least whatever the pre-present. I'm just, I don't know, because I know you in the present. I don't know a lot about you in the past, and it's just fascinating because you're such an eclectic kind of like brain. Like you're just interested in so many different things. Yes, kind of like in the realm of technology and art, but that's a massive realm, right? I'm just interested in like what is the origin, like your dad was a coder, you said? He was in computer graphics or just computers in general?
Not really. So my dad's British, Michael. And
Good day,
he,
sir.
Well, yeah. We actually call him the Duke of Darlington.
The Duke of
Because he goes,
Darlington.
"Master
Oh
Darling,
yes. Oh,
Master Darling."
no.
He's lovely. He's not. He doesn't speak like that. He speaks
Okay.
correct CP, correct pronunciation, and that's his job. It has been. It's been translating technical texts, like for the opera house in Copenhagen.
Wow.
The metro, the Øresundsbron, the bridge to Sweden, that I can see here from my
It's like
balcony.
institutional translation kind of thing.
Yeah, heavy stuff like boring technical
Right.
things, acoustic measurements that just
like
go on and on and
scientific,
on. Translate that scientific text. So translate that from Danish to English.
Interesting.
Maybe the other way
Interesting.
around. I'm not sure.
Yeah, bro. Fascinating. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like I attest, and this is something that I figured out in very retrospect as I get older, but like I kind of realized that like it's not necessarily like the pursuit of art, right? Because I was also very nerdy, very into computers, built my own computer at a young age. For me, it was always like a problem solving. Like, okay, my problem is that I want to watch TV in my room. I got all these computer parts. I could put them together, and now I have a computer in my room. My problem is that I want to make a movie. How do I do that? I'm going to solve it. It's like this need or want to pursue problems is maybe not the right word because it inherits like negativity, but like I want to figure things out in the way that I can then replicate them myself or do them myself. So I'm just like, I'm fascinated for you because I'm fascinated in your perspective. You're a lot older than me. Well, not a lot, but you're a little bit older than me. So, and when you were a kid, it was like a totally different experience. You didn't have, you had this like rudimentary computer, and then you saw this like 3D glass. But where was this kind of like, where does this pursuit that you have, this very, very strong pursuit to be at the cutting edge, to shoot liquid with 250 FPS, like who thinks of that? That's a very unique kind of thing to think about.
Yeah.
Can you put your finger on it?
From?
Where does it come from? Like, what is the even if in an esoteric way, like I'm just fascinated by that.
That's quite a difficult question. I can't say exactly what it is, but it's become more and more apparent the later and the older I become, that there, in my opinion, is some guiding force or something that is kind of manifesting through me or making me do these things. Like who else would go to Burning Man, to the desert, with the sole mission of just like doing shows every night with a laptop and biking through the dust storm to just find a screen. Where's the screen? Where can I get this done? And to go through all the challenges and the hardships it's really to manifest the graphics. I guess, I do like a challenge. And back to the whole computer problem thing. It might not even be negative, because somehow it feels good to solve these problems.
Definitely.
I'm saying right now, my computer's working. At least this one.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I find it interesting, because I think that there's so many driving forces behind, in our industry and kind of like with our peers. There's a lot of different driving forces, and it's always fascinating to find the people like you who will go out into the middle of the desert and find the screen. That's like a very specific type of driving force. I just I want to unpack that, as it were. So let's move on from that. We can come back to it later. Your introduction to kind of VJing and mapping, you kind of mentioned that you had this show in Berlin in the early 2000s. What was the shift from... Sorry?
The show was in Copenhagen, but I moved
in Copenhagen. Sorry, in Copenhagen. You were working
like
for that studio.
Trendy Berlin, based Copenhagen.
Right.
They came back to Copenhagen to do a gig.
Ja, wir kommen to Copenhagen. Ja, wir doing parties. Yeah. So what was the like after that show, when you're like, okay, I want to do this, I want to pursue this, what was kind of the trajectory from there to visuals, loops, mapping? Go into as much detail as you want here. I think this is fascinating for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, so moving to Berlin, it gave me a space, where I didn't know anyone. I didn't speak the language. I had a very nice girlfriend, Sasha, that was totally fine with me being at the computer most of the time.
Nice.
So it didn't take long before my brother coined the term the high-tech hermit. HTH, and that really was what I became, what I was. At the end, I had no idea. Monday, Thursday, Saturday, I didn't care, because I was there with my dressing gown, and it was really like compute, sleep a bit, back to the computer, and that's where I got, I realized, okay, I need more render power to actually, if I want to do this, I need more computers. It's kind of at the same time that the first GPUs started hitting the market. Well, the 1080 and sorry, I just lost track. I think about the 1080 and I blanked out.
The good old 1080 days.
Oh my god! Yeah, they got so hot. Actually, the first test was with my partner Ian Clemer that I met in 2014 in Berlin. So like 10 years after I actually got to Berlin, I met Ian, and this is a longer story actually in itself. But we met on the Orbis forum. Orbis, the company that created particle flow for 3D Studio Max. Excuse me. And we met there by realizing that it's this new box 3 data operators for particle flow, that we could actually plot out some pretty interesting flower shapes in 2D. And that's how I met Ian. And I think we'll actually take that whole thing with Ian and with Superflow a little bit later on.
Yes,
and,
we will.
Just go back to where we were, which was
VJing, mapping, kind of loops. What was the foray into there?
Well, it was not that I got many jobs in Berlin. Actually, in my 13 years I spent in Berlin from 2004 till 2016 or something like that, 17, I probably had like 4 gigs, maybe 5 gigs in Berlin. Did some light festival there as well, but most of the clubbing in Berlin, no, it's strobe or just dark, with some colored light. That it was up at some point, because like the one point we were doing, we were supposed to map the entire Bergheim inside with
Oh,
multiple
yeah.
projectors.
Bergheim, yeah.
But the whole thing kind of flopped because, it is not Bergheim's fault. I guess it's just a lot of these like artists in Berlin that are working on an art project.
Ja,
You know, and it
we don't
never
need
really-
projectors, yeah. We don't need them.
No. That's it. So I became an artist in Berlin for real, but also I started a business there about projecting from my apartment or from my studio by Warschauer Brücke, which is one of the main. It's like the main party mile. It's where you can cross Warschauer Brücke and then you turn left to Bergheim. So that's where my place was.
Cool.
And I started projecting stuff in my windows because it's like, hey, you have like 1 million people out there passing by every week.
Walking by.
It's all the cool, trendy, the young people, the party crowd that don't give a flying buddy's bottom about commercials.
Right.
So that was the whole idea, to actually create like an art display in Berlin at the hotspot that would obviously it would advertise, because it was a pretty expensive operation.
Right.
The studio itself, the technology, the equipment, more computers, but wrapped it in a really cool way. So it would be like, maybe ultimately in my mind, in my dream scenario, it would just be visuals all the time.
Right.
Different, like curate different cool visual artists on the screen, which was eventually, it started out small, but then we kind of expanded to the 2 floors above and stuff. So
wow,
you could definitely see it from quite far away.
That's so cool.
But yeah, the cool thing would be to have visuals running all the time, and then once every 3-4 minutes, just have like powered by NVIDIA, sponsored by Sony,
sponsored by Bergheim,
kind of
yeah, super cool.
Sponsored by Bergheim, but they got a thing. They kind of apparently didn't realize who I was, so they turned me away the door multiple times.
Is Bergheim elitist? I'm so surprised. I didn't. I would never think that.
Have you not? Have you not been?
Is Bergheim a gated community? Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how much we should talk about this, but
they're not going to watch it.
I got busted in Berlin by the cops one night because I was a bit tired of the Bergheim attitude, like 3-4 hours in the door, and then like, hey, okay, turning away at their neighbor, basically, that had a thing or two to show and tell about light and stuff. So I decided to do a guerrilla visual event. There was just, when you were in the Bergheim queue, there's like a school that had this amazing white wall. So we wanted to project on that.
So and smart.
We didn't want to project like anti-Bergheim visuals, but the move was like, it was like video from main floor. Right,
like this is what a real party is.
The real party with happy people that don't get turned away in the door. Come on. But I obviously did make it in a few times, and people said, don't you remember
the cops
when
came?
They kicked you out?
The cops came?
Oh yeah, the cops. To finish that story, the cops. They I kind of in the excitement, I went on a roof with a projector of some like liquor store or something. And without taking into account that there's a police station and fire brigade station just next to it. Right. So before I was hiding up there, and then I had to go down. So there was no like anti-Bergheim action that night. Oh yeah,
I love that.
I like
it's
Bergheim.
such a
like
great
music.
Yeah, whatever. I've never been inside. I've never been inside. No. I just don't find any appeal to stand in line for 3 to 4 hours for anything. I don't think I would ever stand in line for that long for anything. Maybe if they were giving out a free GPU at the end, maybe I would stand in line. But that's about it.
Good
or money.
No
free money.
No
free money. My Jewish instinct would not be able to say no to that.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing. Like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
So.
Again, like I want to jump back to this kind of cutting edge tech idea. You're constantly experimenting and developing this thing. This is something from your early years, clearly, of like experimenting and playing with, your what was the first computer you said it was called? I forget the name. The Siphon.
The ZX Spectrum.
Spectrum. Yeah, I've honestly never even heard about this one.
If I could show you the ZX80 if you have, if I can leave the screen for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, let's see it.
Makes sense.
Let's check it out. Let's check it out.
It is quite a nice effect. So here it is.
Wow. Oh, it's like there's no screen that connects to a monitor.
There's no screen. No. This is
That's
the computer
the computer?
itself, Yeah.
That's so
By
crazy how
Sinclair.
small it is, no? Like it's so
Yeah. I mean, I
wild.
would love to hook this up one day. I really would love to hook it up. It could be fun even to do like a visual piece over
Yeah.
it,
Wait, can you show me the keyboard one more time?
leave it in the back.
Just out of interest,
Yeah,
just show me the
sure.
keyboard. Is it a QWERTY?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not a QWERTY, huh? Or is it? Oh no, it is a QWERTY. It is a QWERTY. Okay, I'm just seeing it backwards. Never mind. Super cool.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, I want to hinder on this one point a little bit because I feel like for our audience, to understand the origin story of Lumi Martin, the interest to play and manipulate with technology, maybe not so early as a childhood, but was there a cutting, or I should say, was there a grounded inspiration for this? Like, was there somebody that you saw was doing this and you wanted to emulate, or is it just really just inherent inside of you?
Well, to answer that question, like my biggest inspiration by far is Giger, Hans-Rudi Giger, that from a really early age discovered his artwork and became super fascinated with his dark
Aesthetic.
style, the way that he kind of pulls these multidimensional beings out
Yeah.
of seemingly, well, not nowhere, but somewhere that only he had access to, and maybe
Yeah.
a few others. And that really became a huge inspiration. I remember actually contacting Giger's agent that must have been in 2004, 2005 in Berlin, where I was realizing, okay, I really, like looking at this abstract, dark art. And there were a few other artists as well, David Ho, Alex Ray, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
I sent his agent a message as well, but so Giger's agent, he was just like, no, absolutely not. You cannot use any of Mr. Giger's work in any of your visuals. So that was a clear no back then, but that was bound to change somewhere down the line because of my display in Berlin. But maybe this is another story.
Let's go into it. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So when Giger passed away, I decided to run a tribute in my window display in Berlin. W33, the company was called. So we had at that point, I think we had 6, 8, 10 windows, large windows facing the street, large of as mentioned before. And I did a tribute to Giger, showing some of his art, and like, thanks for the ride, man. Whatever you say. And a few days later, I find that the guy that actually manages Giger's art collection is in my studio, like hugging me and being like, thanks,
Wow.
vielen Dank, this is amazing. And so yeah, that changed, and I actually have the green light to include Giger's artwork in my own visuals.
No way. That's so interesting.
A big thing. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, that is cool. I haven't overused it. I've used it, fleetingly and like away.
Yeah, well, I mean, this actually will lead me to my next question for you is, Giger, even though he's pulling from, like you said, some multidimensional place, there's something so organic and natural in most of his artworks, even just the movement of things, the way that things kind of fractalize or kind of like are iterated in this interesting pattern. It's very akin to like a pie or, some sort of golden ratio kind of thing. Your style and aesthetic, you capture the organic nature of things in a digital form. That's what I would consider your artwork, and it's something that I hold very dear to my heart because it's something that I try to do as well. When you use mocap data or Superflow, which I would love to get into next, it's kind of akin to a noise pattern like a Perlin or a Brownian that are all based in kind of nature and reality. How does that feel for you to like take these inputs of like these natural occurring, things and digitize them? Like, what is that, what does that mean to you? What does it call you?
Well, it really means a lot, and that's why I called one of my early pieces. It was actually one of those 2 hour, 1.5 hour compositions, and I called it "Data is Nature." It just, I think it was spring back in Berlin, like way back, and I had a macro lens taking pictures of all the like the spring, the blossoming of the trees and the little flower buds and all that. And then I realized there's just like, something else. There's a code running this. It's not just, it might seem random and, some are big, some are small, some are, fat, some are thin. But there's a really like super hardcore code running all that stuff. And I watched it recently, the Data is Nature piece. And here, 15 years later, it still looked pretty good sitting here on the couch with some friends watching it in 720p. So, yeah, I have like some spam coming in here. Mine's all fun. To harness those data flows or data structures of nature, of the organic world, atomic world, the multidimensional, spiritual, all the different levels, I think, or harness it, but at least, have a go at it, have a go at harnessing it, have a go at controlling and kind of bringing this, because at the end of the day, it's zeros and ones. At least, that's how we...
please put your phone on silent, sir.
Yeah, I will. Yes, of course. My apologies. I was so excited about getting set up for this meet, so it's on silent.
Okay. Zeros and ones.
Yeah, where were we? Zeros and ones, just an endless streams of zeros and ones is kind of what most of us perceive, a binary data stream. There might be, and I'm sure there are more complicated ways of managing data as now with all the qubits and quantum computing and all that. But yeah, just kind of getting a glimpse of it. And that's what Ian and I discovered with Superflow. Yeah. That with this really basic system that we had, on our screen in 2D, we could plot out like, a little circle of a seashell, a cone shell, or something that looked like a tree, just with particles. And that was very intriguing to see these natural flower type mandala shapes, appearing on our screen. And that's, one stream, one data stream. It might be the stream, because when you look at galaxies and cells and octopi and all the, everything, it has this inherent symmetry.
Totally. The fractal nature of everything.
Yeah, and the spiral that seems to be controlling everything. When you look at galaxies, everything's a spiral.
Yeah. It's the golden ratio, right? It's the I mean, from what I understand, I don't understand it enough, but the golden ratio is connected to pi in that sense, that it's like a very distinct and specific number that shows up everywhere, right? That kind of, that if you would draw it out, it does create this kind of spiral. Yeah, and I think it makes sense, right? Like iconography, like going back to maybe not like as far as cave paintings, but going back to like very early iconography, you have symbols, right, that are kind of representative of this kind of idea of math, right? Like you know the Ouroboros, like the kind of the never-ending cycle. Even like the infinity icon is a very old ancient icon that can be found in carvings and in paintings and caves even. So I think that there's definitely the very strong connection to how the universe works, quote unquote, with its function and with its, we can say math because that's how we understand it, and our consciousness and like what we perceive, right? Because it's like a chicken or the egg, right? Like, does the universe act this certain way, or do we just perceive the universe acting in this certain way? You know what I mean? It's a very
Or are we just manifesting it?
Or are we just manifesting it?
Having this conversation.
And simulation.
But one thing, But one thing that I do know is that a bit further down the line, where we were really into the Superflow, development, because actually we wanted to develop a tool, a plugin for 3D Studio X for release. we then realized, and funnily enough, I noticed just in the corner of my screen is a lotus flower, which is like, we found out how powerful the Superflow system is to create these incredibly detailed floral patterns, like, like a lotus, or really extremely beautiful and complex shapes. So we decided not to sell it with the kind of the knowledge that pretty soon someone would hack it. It would be out there. Everyone would, have Superflow for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we decided to just keep it as our in-house tool. And
but it was isn't there a release of it somewhere? I always thought there was a there was a website or something, right?
Yeah, there's a basic release out, but that was like the scripted version. So what we did is like the main thing. It's a bunch of operators for 3D Studio Max, Particle Flow, Box 3 data operators that we hired Oleg by Borodin for 4 months to work on it. He's actually the main dude that coded Particle Flow. So he wrote us these with Ian Clemer. Ian Clemer's math genius that went into it, and my technical skill and testing, and we were really kind of coming onto something when we realized that what would happen. This was actually what Ian and I, after meeting on the Orbis forum, we quickly joined a private chat, and we were like, hey, what if we can rotate these particles not just in 2D space but in 3D space?
Right, the third dimension.
There you go.
For sure.
That's what I'm seeing there. That's the script version.
So this version that was released was not the version that you used to make animations. It was like it's like a more rudimentary version of it, or a more broken down version.
This is like the basic functionality. I can't exactly remember how many. Is it just one plugin, or? Yeah, I think it's basically just 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. But the actual the particle based, because this is all geometry based. In 3D Studio Max. So the actual the particle based version is much more complex, and just looking at the interface, because it was never really cleaned up, and it's not exactly user friendly. Let's put it that way.
No, but I don't think, like you said, it wasn't really meant for that, right? It was more of like it's your in-house tool, and you're like, okay, we'll release it as a some sort of plugin that people can play around with. I mean, this is like, this is your forte. This is your MO, not forte. This is your MO, is like, find some fucking multi-dimensional crazy shit and then give it to everybody for free.
to at least to give them the keyed down version for free. But you can make some incredible stuff with the script there. And it's actually, Ian is the guy to ask about the actual math behind
codes.
It.
Yeah, the actual math behind
I know some stuff about it, and I do know that it's actually all based on the super ellipse. It's
super ellipse,
the super ellipse and the golden ratio, and it's like it's a consistent thing through history. And if you watch Ian Clemer's bachelor project, there's a lot of info about it. How the Greeks, Pythagoras used it, and then more recently, his name eludes me right now, but a mathematician in Holland, I can't remember right now, but it's kind of come up. This Danish architect, Bergheim, or architect and artist, he used it to create some Danish furniture. It's actually been used, I think, in some of this, classic Danish furniture.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's those patterns and codes that are like synonymous, right? That can be used to. I mean, if you quote unquote unlock the code or math to generate a flower, right? Then that's gonna scale up to unlocking the code to generate a building, right? Because it's like the same principles of structure and dynamic and just the way nature makes things beautiful but also functional, right? Like a tree is, it's beautiful, but it's also very functional, right? It has a very strong base and it goes upwards to the sun, and it comes out. It's like a very And also like our brains are the same way, right? Like neural networks are in some way. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but I'm speculating. But a neural network in some way is going to be some sort of fractal L shape L system kind of like breaking out. And therefore,
I would think so as well.
Yeah, I would imagine. And therefore, if our brains are functioning like that, then we're going to kind of the same thing we were saying before. If our brains are like that, then we're going to be inherently thinking like that. So I think that like...
that's just until the whole quantum computing thing. What
right,
does that look like?
What
Because
does that look like?
what does that look like? And actually on that, I find the physical, at least the ones I've seen, the ones we know from... the TV show Devs, the classical quantum computer.
The way it looks, right? It's like this like crazy. Yeah.
Oh my God, I would love to have one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I think we'll probably have them in our lifetime. Maybe not like as like a personal computer, but I think that we'll have access to quantum computing, in the next 10, 15 years, like as a Google Cloud kind of service. What we can do with it, I'm not really sure, but it'll be super fast. I mean, it's kind of like, the hypercube, right? Like the cube inside of a cube that's kind of showing in 3D space what a 4D kind of object looks like. So I would imagine the quantum idea will probably never be able to see it the same way, right? Like when you look at a fractal, you can see it, right? Like, okay, I get it. It's fractalizing. I see it. Okay, you can 3-dimensionalize it. But once you add like time to it, right? We're just experiencing that on like a 3-dimension, sometimes in a 2-dimension on like a screen, but to really see what a 4th-dimensional cube is and what it looks like, I don't think our brains can really, quantify it.
No, and let alone 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think is what I've heard so far,
Yeah.
There's one story I really like.
Please tell it. I'm going to show some more examples of your stuff.
So, yeah, thank you. So this scientist, Heim, he had an accident. He was a German scientist working with whatever he did in the lab. And there was a terrible accident. He went in a coma and he became horribly misfigured.
Oh, no.
And then in the coma, somehow he sees it. A bit like Walter Russell. He had the same thing where he goes into a coma and comes out of the coma like, okay, that's what it's like. This is how it is. So Heim's theorem is some super complex math. And he describes 11 dimensions. And obviously he says time travel is possible. But it's some really advanced stuff. I was quite thrilled to hear that there's a team in New Mexico that's taken up his paper and is working on it.
To try and do this kind of time travel stuff?
I think they maybe I shouldn't say too much, but they want to build a device. Okay.
Oh, cool.
That's what I heard or read somewhere. But yeah.
Let's go. I mean, that's also all the good science fiction movies of like time travel. It's always like such a mind fuck because it's like, well, if they made it, then it would already exist, and then wouldn't they be able to just come back and show them how they made it? I don't know. Like there's like this weird,
Just don't touch yourself.
Yeah, don't touch yourself. I can't remember what that movie is. It's such a good movie. It's a time travel movie, but it's like an indie film, and it was like made for very cheap. But it's such a good one. It's kind of like Devs, where it's like science fiction, but they're using a lot of. It will come to me later. Yeah, I mean,
interesting enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, just here on the side note as well,
Please.
with regards to Devs. Interesting about that is that Alex Garland, he saw my piece.
Yeah.
While he was recording The Beach, my friend met him in Thailand and showed him one of my very first Quantum Force Kagatoa animations with a mocap. And Alex, he liked it apparently, and he that became the whole foundation for the screen, the whole computer screen. There's some of it there. This was
you mean the
visualization,
visualization of what they're seeing in the thing with the points. Yeah.
So that's apparently what Alex told his team was like. This is what we want. This is the look we want to go for.
Hell yeah.
And interesting. Then Mitch Schultz from the DMT Spirit Molecule, I did some work with him later on after the DMT remix, and he was like, "This is the look. You have to watch Devs. That's you. That's the look we're after." So
That's awesome.
That's pretty interesting. It's
awesome.
a great show. Yeah.
All your mocap stuff is just absolutely beautiful. It was a real huge inspiration for me to get into mocap and do the show that we used to do, me and my wife. And then obviously you gifted or lent me a suit that was a huge turning point for me and having access to this very high-end technology. So thank you for that inspiration.
I'm happy to hear that, Ellen. Yeah.
I want to just touch a little bit more on Superflow and kind of like, you don't really talk too much about the future development of it. But, besides for meeting Ian and getting kind of into this, like you said, like the 2D fractalization of things or iterations of things, what is the future plans for Superflow? So that was a very strange all over question, but
but I totally get it. It's actually being, I would say, a driving force in me and in Ian, knowing that we have something. This is like totally, without a doubt, there's something in the Superflow that's universal somehow. This is something I wanted to say before. Ian was contacted by, I can't remember his name, but some professor from some university. I know it's a bit vague, but some dude that's been working really in the lab for like 40 years, and he was flabbergasted. He was like, "How did you do it? How did you visualize the quantum realm so precisely?" He was like totally, and this was some tests Ian had done, and I have a few of the animations still on my drive. Super amazing to be in there. So I really, since discovering Superflow, and it's been a very dear baby somehow, that I would love to take further. We have an alpha version working in Unreal Engine, and that's really what we want to do, is to combine Superflow, Xeno Dream, some of the other tools we have at our disposal into this like grand unified tool that manipulates particles in 3D 4D space, we can all like in Unreal or some other real-time engine, most likely Unreal. That's what we have working so far.
That sounds like the most exciting news I've heard all week.
Oh my God, yes, it's so exciting. The downside to it is that it requires time and money. That's kind of the real problem, and that's actually what's been stopping Ian and myself from, and it's from keeping Superflow in its crib, so to say, that it's just a bunch of operators we have on our computer and old hard drives, to this thing that it could actually be a fully
product of some sort,
multi-dimensional visualizer for that it could even be a game, a PlayStation game.
Yeah. I mean, if you make it
smashing stuff,
if you make it in Unreal, then it can, it can be, like you said, it could be accessible to, visual artists and to game developers. I think that's I'm sure you've seen what Machina Infinitum has done with the fractals in Unreal, I personally, it blows my mind that even can happen, right? But there's a lot of limitations still, and I feel like, just to kind of like, stroke your ego a little bit, but the Superflow algorithm is something that I don't really see replicated at all. I mean, yes, you can get like beautiful fluid simulations, and yes, you can do, you can do like some iterative math inside of Touch Designer and, get interesting particles and all that. But the aesthetic of the animations that you manage to pull out of there is something that I just don't see at all. And, so I really hope that does kind of come into fruition, and we have to find the right person, hopefully maybe some sheik in Dubai or something that can fund the Superflow project.
Possibly. Yeah, that would be great, because imagine a game a little bit like, down the area of Res or something like that, something that's like beautiful to look at. There could be a single player mode, of course, an adventure mode, one where you just explore Superflow shapes and patterns.
Yeah.
Do you remember the game Sentinel? I think it was for the 64 or something like that.
Sounds so familiar.
It was this weird landscape where you had to get higher, and it was quite difficult. It just sprung into mind, but it's not really related. It was just like a flash.
Well, it just makes me think about the game. It's a new one. It's called 4D Golf. Have you heard about it?
4D Golf.
Yeah, there's some research that happened, I think, in the past 2 or 3 years, where they did like simulations of non-Euclidean viewports, or I guess cameras, or non-Euclidean geometry inside of Unreal, it's actually Unity, but so they took that kind of concept and then merged it into like a 4D slicing, so like you can take this non-Euclidean geometry, which means that you can like go through a door and come out like on the side, right? And it still makes sense, because you're kind of like, you're not going through something, you're going, I don't know, inside of it and around it. And then they use that kind of concept to do a golf game where you can slice the different fourth dimensions while you're playing mini golf. Super cool. Let me see if I can find it.
Stuff.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure if it's the one I've seen, but this sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just like the concept of this. Yeah, because I just look at the way this looks. It's so trippy. Experience 4D world, blah blah. Like, it's such a cool concept, like, even if it's not necessarily like how the actual fourth dimension works or anything, I love the idea of the visualization of it, like just the slicing of things. Cool. Yeah, and there's another one.
Because it reminds me of another golf game. My friend is actually he was on the team. He's working with the company. It's a Danish game developer. And I think it's called, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's called This Is Not Golf.
This Is Not Golf?
And it's crazy. It's like for the new Apple Vision OS.
What the Golf?
Yeah. What the Golf? That's the one. Yeah. So he's working on.
You're using your. I love that. That's great. You use the items to get into the thing.
Oh my god! It goes completely crazy.
That's so cool. I love that. Okay, so we were just talking about Euclidean or non-Euclidean kind of things, and I just wanted to show this quick thing because it's such a cool visualization.
Sorry about that.
Of like of possible understand. Like look at that. Like you're seeing it as a straight thing, but really it's like this kind of like broken up thing. And I was just kind of like looking quickly at Euclidean and non-Euclidean geometry and kind of like where it is. It's actually very interesting. I didn't know this, but so Euclidean geometry, it actually didn't even have a name because it's from ancient Greece. It didn't even have a name because it was so inherent and like obvious, right? That like a cube is like this, right? And like that there's different rules. And only in like the 19th century, pre-Einstein, but Einstein kind of solidified it with relativity, theory of relativity, where in that theory you couldn't have Euclidean geometry. It didn't make sense anymore, broke down, and that's where it became like a thing. I think it's so cool, like in his understanding of like time space, that's when we understood that like the physical world, like the geometrical world, is not the finite, and this is kind of like akin to Superflow, right? Where it's like, okay, you take something that's like kind of understood, right? You take these like theorems and these ideas, you put them into like a different visualization technique, and now are you unlocking different doors into different understandings of reality? Like, that's fucking cool,
It's like superflowing the superflow. What happens if you do that? Only one person really has been, almost crazy enough to try that. Ian showed me a few tests where he did that. I don't quite exactly know how he did that, but oh my god,
it's wild.
The renders, and it turns into not just like a pretty floral pattern, but you can clearly see it's a language. It's like ultra detailed DNA coding on some
Informational,
of
yeah.
these. Yeah, it's incredible, really cool. And I know he did a few. I have them somewhere like on a hard drive. Superflow and the Superflow, and that is very exciting.
That's super cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna jump into your set in a moment. I have one more thing that I remember when you told me about this. I was like, this guy is the coolest guy ever. You used to go and do expeditions, like to like far out places. Like I know the one that you told me about was the Amazon, and you would go to the Amazon and do like research of like different structures and temples, and then you would come back to your studio and then start making art based on this expedition. And like just the idea of like looking at art creation as like an anthropological a pursuit is just that really like changed the way that I viewed my art making for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, like please tell me about that. Like where did the idea come from? You
Yeah.
know, where did you go?
Well, I mean, the idea came, pretty much from the whole way that I've decided and have done things to base an upcoming show around a certain theme. So for instance, the Tipper Eclipse show in St. Louis, the 4321 Eclipse thing. I had been, how was it? I think I went to Mexico after one of the previous shows. And saw the temples, did 3D scannings of temples and the jungle imagery. And so I decided to base that show on this kind of, jungle, lost temples in the jungle with,
Right.
incredible treasures. But it's dangerous as, dangerous as dangerous can be. Really, with the crocodiles and snakes and, all that. So the whole show was centered around this. Particularly the frog scene was, something that people really remembered.
The famous
But,
frogs.
The famous frogs, yeah. It was actually two of my friends kind of doing capoeira in mocap suits.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
so great.
I
love
did
that.
the single frog was me, and it was the same mocap clip was used to do the kind of. It was for less, I needed for one of the other Tipper shows to recreate the feeling of an astronaut that was lost. So I was kind of walking around. Where am I? My spacesuit
Interesting.
is leaking. So, so that's what it came to be. And then, I kind of did a few more of those theme-based visuals. Another Tipper show, well, not for Tipper, but for. It eludes me right now. Sorry, but
okay.
It was all based on sunken treasure and pirates, and
Ooh.
coral reefs and stuff like that. So yeah, but I haven't taken it to the same extent as Andy Thomas has done, where he actually goes and records bird sounds in the Amazon, and then creates graphics based on that. But good news is I'm kind of have a really good relation with Andy, and we're working on a collaboration of sorts. I've just sent him some mocap data recently. I met
Just
up with him. Maybe he might be coming to Copenhagen here in a few weeks, actually.
Oh, hell yeah. Just the thought of you and him making something together is very, very exciting.
It's pretty good, yeah.
All right. So let's jump into your set. I think you have something prepared for us. Maybe you want to give like a brief introduction to
yes,
what it is that you're going to show. And let me make sure that I turn your thing on as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I want to show is in part of, so it's a piece of software, a very obscure piece of software that I think maybe globally 50, 100 people, maybe 200 are using.
Right.
But only a few, probably one or two, three maybe artists are using the software to create the kind of stuff that I've been doing, and become pretty good friends with the developer Garth Thornton. He's based in New Zealand, and the software it's been around since I think '92, where it was initially it got brought into existence because they needed some science fiction structures for some movie, a sci-fi
Oh, I
movie.
didn't know that.
So
It's
they
from
needed a
it's from the
planet or
film
whatever.
industry, huh? Interesting.
I think so. I'm not sure. I have to ask Garth about it. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, the program is called Xeno Dream, and it's been around for a while. I think maybe 92 was the first version. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that is correct, but and it's programmed in Delphi. So
Delphi. I don't even know what that
it's
is.
yeah, it's like it has its own interface. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's the best way to describe it really is Superflow on steroids times 100,000.
Well, yeah, you would describe it that way?
Point cloud version. Well, it has different things, so it can do these
It's more like a
iterative
fractal.
functions.
Yeah.
It does fractal, but it also does other stuff as well. You could use it as 3D modeling software.
That's
But
true,
the beauty
right?
of it doesn't create polygons.
Right.
It can, but it's a point cloud generator.
Mm-hmm.
So it renders super fast.
Yeah.
You have all these. It really takes quite a while to get to learn how to use it. It's sorry, Garth. Somewhat clunky interface. At least the first version, Xeno Dream. It's you need to know how to work with it.
It's very hard to use.
It's quite hard to use, but I was just like, I have to learn this. It's so cool because
It's
there
so
must be
cool.
treasures hidden in there.
No, I
Yeah.
felt the same way when you turned me on to it. I haven't really
Yeah.
used it much in my own art, but just playing with it was super fun. And once you kind of get the idea of the different operators, then it does become a lot more intuitive. And what I found super cool about it was just the speed. Like you said, like just you're rendering or whatever, you're viewing like extremely detailed iterative fractals, and it's like pretty close to real time. There's a very small amount of especially in the new version. I think it's even overhauled.
Yeah. No polygons,
But yeah, I mean, it's
nothing.
no polygons, right?
It
And you
just-
can,
it
but
can
you
actually
can
plot-
export.
it
You
plots
can
them out.
export.
Yeah, you can export, and that's of course the really really exciting thing, where my work with 3D Studio Max and the ThinkBox suite, Krakatoa. It's like for massive
Yeah,
point cloud
Krakatoa.
rendering.
Yeah.
I realized at the time, since Xeno Dream is a point cloud simulator where you can kind of, and it has hundreds of so-called metamorphs operators. So it has constructors, also known as
Show a little bit of
holons.
it.
Yeah. So holons, let's just constructors, and then it has these modifiers. And you can iterate, and you can do all kinds of absolutely mind-bending stuff.
It's from 2004, by the way. This gallery.
2004. Okay.
This specific gallery is from
the
2004.
Gallery. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe like there's one gallery, and it's that's when I saw those renders. It's a Polish guy, I think, called Project Zero.
Okay.
Absolutely, he won some NVIDIA, render contest with it.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible.
And these are from 1999. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Do a Google instead for it, like Xeno Dream images or Project Zero, because it can. And so you can render in Xeno Dream itself. It has a renderer.
Yeah.
It's
not very good.
I haven't
No offense.
used it much, but it's really because you get the detail, especially with the fractals.
That's true.
You can render really, high res. Unfortunately, it's only 32-bit and probably will stay that way unless it's ported completely to C++.
It's also
which
it's
is-
CPU bound, right? The renderer.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. So this is where the whole thing and this is where I somehow come into the picture, because back in the day, and that's been 2006, 2007, I convinced Garth to create a PRT exporter, where PRT is the Krakatoa particle format. So it's a binary, super fast particle loader reader. And that meant that from that point on, it was possible to export animations from Xeno Dream super fast from Xeno Dream into a binary particle format that could then be converted to whatever else you want to. So
Right.
that's where the fun really started. And yeah, with Xeno Dream for the animations, it's a leap of faith, and of course, it's a lot of testing and knowing what to do, the do's and don'ts. Like, don't change the metamorph in the middle
In the
of a
middle.
sequence because it will get weird. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe in that weirdness, something
It'll be
amazing
cool.
turns up. You
For
get these
sure.
weird glitchy things, and it might spin like completely out because I normally do, let's say I do 1,000, I do 4,000 frames of animation. I set 4 keyframes.
Right, you
And
just let it go.
what happens in between is just like,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, some of your coolest animations are utilizing this Xeno Dream.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna try and find this one, but you know, it's like this beautiful blue flower, and it's like you would look at it and be like, okay, that's like in Mandelbulb, or that's like some sort of fractal software, but it's not. You know, it's point clouds. It's done in this.
It's point cloud.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it really is. I actually thought about just sending you. I don't know if that makes sense. That if you want to show it, because the next part really, I think I have it online here.
Well, you could just play it back on your. You could play it back by you, and I'll.
I'll
share your
play
screen.
it back once we get here. Just wait a sec. But
Sure.
let me just explain that. Okay, I'll find the file. So the limitation of Xeno Dream, sadly enough, has been that you cannot, you could have not been able to import objects, unfortunately. But let's just
In the new
take
version, you
this
can?
one. Yes, you can. I'll just
Which is kind of funny though, now that you say it,
so-
because it's like the amount of objects that are available for you in the program are like insane. There's so many different
That's
types of
true.
things.
Yeah, and that's, but that's been the whole conundrum all the time where, I've been like working closely with Garth to do this. He's been doing the coding, but I've been like, Garth, wow, the holy grail would be if we could load in
Your
a
own
3D
stuff.
scanned objects or
Yeah.
particles, or load in, and
Yeah.
you've been like, no, forget about it. It's not going to happen in this dimension. It's too complex. We cannot do it. And then I wake up one night, actually, just like out of the blue, like, hey, what about importing a point cloud into Xeno? And Garth was like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Easy.
that's easy. I
Yeah.
can do it right now. I give you 10 minutes.
That's
So
great.
then it has it, and it really is like, it kind of Xeno Dream has been, along with Superflow, my secret weapon, as I've said sometimes. But with this capability, as you can see in this video I'm just about to play, where
Okay.
it's a Kinect captured point cloud of Kiva, my friend here from Copenhagen, that's then being, displaced and modified with in Xeno Dream. So it's a sequence, a PRT sequence, the particle sequence into Xeno, and you can then animate. It could be a static object as well, but here it's an animation, and she's being deformed really slowly by some Xeno operators,
Wow.
and then it just has a finishing touch in Notch to create some of that,
the
geometric
post-process.
line collection.
Just can you
So should
click
I
the
just,
can you click the hide? Just click the hide on that little
Yes,
pop-up
of
thing.
course I can.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, press
Okay.
play. Let's go for it.
Here we
See
go.
what we got. Cool.
Have you got the sound there?
No.
Probably not.
No.
No, kidding.
Wow, look at that.
I'll make it available.
Dun, dun, we could sing. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
This is so cool. Is this new?
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's like some of the last work I actually did. It's like, a few years old, just when
So
this
cool.
capability became
It's literally
reality.
just like a point cloud mocap, and then you're putting it through there with like the different morphs.
Yeah, it's not even mocap. It's just point cloud, raw point cloud data
For
loaded
Connect.
into Xeno. And then since the first version here, where it was possible, it had an error that's causing these glitches.
Right.
But
it looks cool as fuck.
When you see the track with sound, it just fits perfectly with the glitches for some reason.
I love it. It's like very like lost civilization ruin kind of like shapes.
Yeah.
Like it's not familiar, but it's almost familiar. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting pattern. I love it. It's almost
And then
reaction
you see this
diffusion-y
human
in a way.
face, this like
Yeah, you see
a doll face that appears in there. It's
Yeah.
like, and you could do it. You know, I've done animations of myself. You know, it could be your cat, it could be your house, it could be whatever. You know,
I love it.
or coffee mug.
Super
And
cool.
you can 3D print this stuff as well. So it's really a powerful package.
Killer. Well, let's go into it. Let's
Yeah.
jump into Xenomorph and
Let's
see
go into it. Okay.
see what you do.
Yeah, that was it. Okay. So I think first of all, maybe I should just explain that I worked on a production that was supposed to be a Netflix show. Never really got that far, but it was all centered around the human retina. So
Cool.
I'll start by showing some examples here of some of the renders that came out. Are these big enough? Should I?
There you
Maybe
go. That's
actually
good.
I'll just do like I'll just do like this. Hang on. Wait, I have it open here. I'll do it as a. What's the one up? And then
Beautiful.
do a slideshow. Where's the slideshow? No, edit image. Oh well, I'll just go like this.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
good.
so yeah, this is one of the attempts at recreating a human retina within Xeno Dream. And when I saw this on my screen, I was like, okay, I can actually have a little computer break now because it's pretty good. There's a really nice animation of this as well.
Beautiful.
So here's another version of it. I have to admit, this is Mandelbrot 3D and Octane, but
Oh, wow.
it ended up here as well. This
Beautiful.
is some 3D stuff as well. So here we're back to Xeno Dream. This is actually one of Kirik Luminukaya's Xenos, because he is one of the other guys
He
that
uses it a while?
know how to use it.
No
he
way.
uses it. And when I met him the first time in Transylvania, for Transylvania Calling 2011,
Calling,
before going to my first burn,
It's a good one.
this guy is standing looking with open mouth, and he's like, this is Xeno Dream? You animate Xeno Dream? And he didn't know that it was possible at the time to animate it. So we
'cause
become
he's-
really good friends, and
Interesting.
we're almost name bros now. So here's some different
Oh yeah, Lumi Koya.
iterations.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, Lumi no Kaya and Lumi Yukon.
That's really funny.
The funny thing was actually I want to go and visit him in Himalaya. So imagine that, how that's going to
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
Lumi no Kaya, Lumi Yukon in Himalaya. Here, different Xeno objects. So
I
you
love
get more
the
into
it is like so organic looking, right? Like the kind of, and it's not only just the shape, it's also the way it's kind of like iterated in this very interesting fashion. It's very interesting.
You can create some totally crazy fractals in there. So what I do and have been doing is going through the examples. There are lots of examples. As I said, it's a small scene, that works with the software. But without further ado, I'll fire up XDX, which is the new version of Xeno Dream. Xeno Dream 2, in effect. It's not out yet, but it's getting really close now.
It's much better. I used it, I think, a year ago, maybe even longer. But it was like the stark difference between the original one and the new one is quite apparent.
It is, and so this is 993, so it's getting really close. Last few things are being fixed, but the good news is you can actually up here you can load in all the old import XD, so the old Xeno Dream parameters. You could, you can load in here. It doesn't have all the same metamorphs or operators as the original Xeno does. So, but yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to start from scratch. So, to create a human retina type object, the first, so here you have your metamorphs, your operators, and you see, as in opposed to the first version where you only had 2, here you actually have 6 operators you can have affecting, and you can do it in parallel drive, skip. I mean, I haven't even touched any of that stuff yet, so I just load in stuff. So if I click here, I get a list of all the constructors, and don't know how much it goes through, how you can see, but you have a bunch of different primitives. So we will start with good old Taurus. And just to already go into the realm of human vision, we'll add some color, make it transparent. So now we have a torus with this gradient being mapped. Zoom in a little bit here, there. So it's not really following the mapping here, but that doesn't matter, because what we will do, we will put a metamorph on it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. We could copy it if we want. One can also like do stuff here and then go back and add things after. So for now, we'll just stick to the original plan here and use an operator called hair waver. If I can find it, radial hair wave. It's actually for creating hair. So that gives us this, kind of, hair wavy thing. So now we can go back to the torus. We can say, here are all the different, the values. We'll take down the thickness. So here we have just a very kind of thin representation of the torus. And then the other effect is the hair wave is being applied on top. Let's just make it solid. I know, we'll go back to transparent. So to rotate the camera, you have to go to a completely different, area of the program, the view, and you can't just grab in the viewport. Let's do like that. So we can see that it actually is a 3D object.
I love it how, responsive it is. And it's kind of like, it almost kind of reminds me of a path tracer, how it's updates, even though it's not path tracing, it's just points. But it's kind of cool, it's like you move points and then it's stable.
It's really so fast. That's for people that have no experience with modeling, or people that can't be bothered, fiddling around with box modeling and sorting out vertices and backface culling and God knows what. It's actually a really great playground, because you can just be like, oh wow, this is cool. Let's try putting this on it. And I'm still a baby somehow in Xeno Dream. In Xeno Dream land. But I do know one thing, and this is something that Lumi and I have agreed on. He actually came to me and he said, there is secret language hidden in Xeno. And when I got hired by this, actually by Mitch Schultz, to work on this thing that we never really brought to completion, it was to design an alien language. And I knew instantly, yes, okay,
this is the right software.
This is it. Yep. This is the thing too, because really there's stuff hidden in there. I'm not going to say too much. Maybe I'll say one word, Karakuza. And you can...
Karakuza?
Karakuza.
I don't know this one.
It's Karakuza is a mathematician. The operator is in there somewhere, and there are quite a few different ones. I mean, that's actually, it's the one that we used in my video with the Ice Queen before.
Okay.
It's a super cool operator. Maybe I'll show it here at the end of the presentation.
Sounds like a cool name.
So let's say now we kind of, coloring is a totally different thing as well. But what in this case, we're kind of a bit fed up with just boring coloring from there. So why don't we go down here and say we have a UVW. We'll just map it from meter 2, which is our hair wave. So the what's it called, the modifier, I'll just call it metamorph from now, just saying the Xeno Dream jargon.
Sure.
So the metamorph is the second one here, and that's now responsible for the coloring. So if we take down the density, take it up, then we can start seeing, now it's actually being colored by that operator, which is kind of cool. So coloring is not like ultra important for our, for our purpose right here. But as you can see, you can cycle through. It's a gradient. You can load in a whole bunch of different colors. This one is nice also for an eye. If we just shift it a bit more, let's go with that. And you can make your own as well. So I don't know. Okay. So we have that, and maybe we'll now try making our torus thinner. We've done that. We can make it thicker. We can start playing around with these different things. making an ellipse if you want to make more like a traditional eye shape. It has oscillate, and each of the metamorphs, they have different things you can adjust. Wave shape, bubble. Then we should add some rib frequency here. Rib phase. Ellipse, for some reason it's not doing so much. Typical when one is to show stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Here we go. Oscillate. I think we'll just take the view back to the top there. It makes it a little bit easier to see. And I will switch back because I find this gradient is better for our purpose. There. Yeah, something that kind of resembles me. Okay, let's go to that, because that was just the torus we were fiddling with, of course. Now we have the hair wave, and that's, we'll just take this down a bit again, the oscillate, so we kind of know what's happening. Let's just kind of turn them off. You could even have them as presets, so you could, so you can quickly shift between. So the hair wave, the amount, we can grow the hair. We can even go into negative, which also gives quite a nice eye, I find. We can up the frequency. Oh, here we go. Do some random height on the different hairs. And it really is a playground, you know? You just like fiddle around and then adjust things. So hereabouts starts looking more and more human. Let's go back to the torus and try to add some more thickness now. Even this is cool. You know, that would be a pretty, and you can animate it.
Nice animation,
so
yeah, that'd be super cool.
And then you could go like that. And then you could start doing things with it. Let's go, what's bubble frequency? So back to the hair wave. Wave amount, we can make it really wavy, or plus and minus. But if we really want to go for the human eye type thing, it should be somewhere around there, I guess. Maybe we need more of them or less. That depends, like how much you'll be looking at your screen, I suppose. There. You can add some curve, that's what we just did. But this one also adjusts quite nicely the actual center. We have different shapes here. So really, I suggest just trying all these different things out and playing with it. Random height will kill that, so they're all the same length.
It's definitely one of those programs that is like most fun to play with, right? Like just to play around with, and
yeah. It's actually pretty fun to show it as well. I find just now, but I obviously this setup came to me, and I was really happy when I found it. So yeah, you can do so much with it. I know some of the other users, they have built churches and stuff, like, you know, 3D.
Wow, like super. Church. Yeah.
But with a fractal component, because if we now add an iterator, I'm not going to go into that because iterators are a totally different thing. It would then make infinite number of copies of this eye. I mean, okay, could just do it here quickly to show you what it looks like. We'll make one iterator, then it copies our object an infinite amount of times. In this case, we would then take that iterator, and haven't played too much with them, but you see there we get like
start getting clones,
fractalization of it. Yeah, and then you could start going like rotate,
nice.
And have many more. And then you can put another iterator on it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to delete this iterator actually. And go back to our top view. Okay, we'll zoom in a bit. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the basics of that setup. We could scale the whole thing up. So here, where my mouse is, that's like for the whole object. We can go into each metamorph, not all of them, but some of them have their own scale. So now we could scale the hair wave, which really now only does something, because it's on all axes, only does something to the color. Maybe not that interesting to do. We'll just kind of leave it at the default 100. Yeah, we could try rotating that. And this then rotates the hair wave metamorph through our thing. If we change the position, you see that it's actually the hair wave. Oh, here
He's
you have a
moving
nice
through it.
jellyfish
Wow.
type thing,
Super
right?
cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe that actually would be kind of interesting. Let's say we push this. No, we won't. No squids. We're making 9. I get tempted, you know. But one thing that is interesting, and that is to go into the very special and interesting, not the special one, but the fractal category.
Fractals.
Fractals, use these at own risk because it can seriously change your whole thing. I would say, why don't we try a coke bulb on it? Okay, I like to rotate this one 90 degrees on the Z-axis. We'll zoom out a bit, because when you do that, and that's something that I have figured that, oh wow, that looks a little bit like a face, just vaguely. But if you play around with these settings, you know, you can really get like eyes, you can get some really, now we have too much hair going on. We could just, for instance, turn off the visibility, go back to a coke bulb. You can really create some cool alien faces like this.
Wow.
You see it's already forming, the alien eyes. Maybe we push it down a bit, la 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 la. But so that's another lesson, but that was, I created some really cool looking aliens like that. But we'll turn back on our hair wave. Let's see, what do we want to do? Position. We did that before. Let's try some of the other fractals, because that's also what I really like about this program. We can go here. Yeah, we were back on the hair wave. So here we go with the position like we did. We can rotate the fractal. Excuse me.
Super cool.
We can do like this. We can do all kinds of, and one can even mask them out. We could also color the whole thing now on the fractal instead. So if we go meter 3, now it's the fractal that's coloring.
Interesting.
Alien type thing. But okay, let's go through some of the other one. Here we have the Julia bulb. What's going on in there? It's because there's a lot of weird stuff here. Well, interesting to find out what that is. Let's do that. The Siva bulb is cool as well. I mean, they're all amazing, and they all do something really different. I remember there are many ways you can do it. You can also start with a fractal, then you can put a constructor, then you can put. I mean, there are many different techniques here, and as I said, I'm only using a fraction of what this software can actually do. But
Scratching the surface.
Scratching the surface, that's it. So let's actually now, just to kind of slowly bring this to a conclusion, let's do a ring star copy of it. So here we have now copies of ours. How many arms do we want? We just want 2 actually. Well, let's do 3. We can rotate them.
Nice.
So yeah, could do all kinds of stuff there.
Trinity.
Do you know, if we're happy with this, we could even probably have some like that they grow alt arms. Oh wow, we could have alternative arms. Yeah, okay, not much happens there. You do polyhedrons, ladders, helixes, you get it. That's pretty basic stuff. Let's go back to the ring star, and let's say, okay, now we want to render this baby out. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's just render the single eye. So nice and easy. We'll get rid of our ring star, and then we can just click up here and then see what does it look like in solid mode. It looks like that. Rotate around a bit. Oh, okay. If we want to do maybe we want to do a 3D export for the 3D printer. That would be kind of cool.
That'd be super cool.
Just go. Yeah, that would be
So
cool.
when it does,
and
when it does the solid mode, is it essentially just drawing polygons to the points? Is that, or is something else going on? Are there like different settings
no,
for it?
It doesn't do polygons. Yeah, it's more like a setting. So let's say, okay, we want to render this as it is right
Right.
here. Let's just rotate it a little bit so it looks like, yeah, okay, that we can see it. Then we'll go into light and materials. This is where we set the render size. That's fine. We'll set it there. And we'll just go with transparent mode. So we'll go like all dark. Materials. I mean, yeah, you don't need to follow this. It's I've only spent a fraction of time in here myself just loading. Loading some presets. We want to use the one called emission 100 and turn the translucency to, I think, to 100. And then we click generate new. Oh yeah, one more thing. We want to take a black background. Basic monochrome. Black background. Okay, so here we have our render coming on, and it's kind of, as you see the numbers down here, it just keeps going. It keeps adding points to it.
Interesting.
And I'll stop it right now, and then we can switch now between the different shading modes. Flat, shaded. Then we see the solid. Still no polygons, but it's just shaded. It's particles.
It's giving you like a view like
and
that.
And then we can go into our lighting, which is our transparent view. For some reason, it's not really, I mean, the transparency.
I love the tendrils, you know, it's like this very interesting tendril kind of like feeling. Super cool. Could you add...
Okay, so I think it's the absorb distance here that one needs to play with. That's
nice.
The absorb distance. Could you add a...
like the edge of the tendrils, you know, like could you add like a noise so they're just like moving in some way? Like is that, you have to animate it, I guess.
So, because you can animate everything.
Right.
So there is this one, there's the shape, okay? And as you can see here, it changes. It's a little bit hard to see what's going on. Is that the jitter? So here if we go jitter, if we just set the jitter to 0, we'll take the width. 0. Oh, that was interesting. Width, amount, wave amount. Oh yeah, so here.
Yeah, there you go.
Wave frequency. Oh yeah, so.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, then you kind of
and
have,
you can make
have
like a
that
fall
wave
off
thing.
Make a fall off, so it's
and
not
then
like
you
affecting.
have the wave shape, the wave amount. Yeah, wave frequency. I think. Yeah. I think you would have to do the fall off type thing in here in this by setting what type, or you could put a totally different operator on this and subtract it, whatever now you want to do, and you could probably mask this as well. Yeah. So if you only wanted it there. I know I've seen bigger ones in here, so maybe we just take down the. Wait a sec. Where am I? Airway Taurus. Yeah, it's a playground. So if we wanted to export this as a mesh, okay, now we're satisfied with our look and all that. So here you can render it in those different modes. You would then let it cook here for quite a while, depending on how clean you want it. Let's just say, okay, we're happy with it like that. We stop it, and then you go into picture, and then you render it there. So it's kind of a little bit of a funny thing. You need to set up the light, and then you can go back and so forth.
Right.
But as I said, what I've been doing mostly is exporting point clouds.
Yeah, you're not rendering.
That's
you're
for
mostly
sure.
not. You're not rendering inside of this mostly, right? No.
I mean, no, but I want to do it more because you can do it. It has 360 rendering.
Ooh,
and it has,
that's cool.
And it the detail of the fractal is just insane when you render in Xeno. I think nothing beats that, you know. But so the real beauty, and that's somehow, you know, my. You know, I helped Garth realize this would be a very cool addition, point cloud export from Xeno, that you couldn't do before. So you just be like, oh, how many million particles do we want? Give me a number, Alan.
How many particles?
Yeah, nothing completely insane, but
It's like,
sub
128,000.
Oh, okay. 1,000 or million?
No,
Let's just go with. Let's just go,
512. 512.
512,000. Okay, that's 500,000. So we'll just put 0.5. It's on the low side, but here we go. Bang. That's it.
Nice.
And you see how fast it is. So I would say, okay, let's do 5 million. 5 million particles.
Oh, there we go.
3, 4, 5.
Wow.
And 5 million particles, depending very much on your shape, is pretty much enough. There you
Right.
have them. And then you just go save point cloud.
And that's
Bang.
it. And
you
it's
save to
PLY.
PLY, PLT, sequenced, and it's so powerful.
Do you
can
still
really,
use Krakatau?
Yeah.
You do?
I use it. Too bad. Somehow it's a blessing and a curse that Amazon bought ThinkBox because they had the most amazing tools. We were working really closely with them actually. Testing new stuff and then Amazon came along and bought Amazon and that would be like Superflow and the Superflow. Amazon bought ThinkBox.
Yeah.
And the development stopped, but they released all the software for free. At least
Really?
the particle plugins for 3D Studio Max. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Krakatau is free now.
I never used it. The only time I did was when you showed me the original Xenomorph, and you were like, okay, the only way to get it out is through this thing. I downloaded a cracked version of 3ds Max and a cracked version of Krakatau just so I could export from Xenomorph into that.
Yeah.
And then in Krakatau you could export as a PLY or something that was more easily usable.
I'll tell you what, actually, but this is well, I'll tell you now, actually. So I
please.
had a project recently where it's visualizing MRI data, so real scan data. I had an MRI scan, and I was like, hey, why I want to bring these particles into, I want to look at myself inside, full body scan. It must be possible to hook it up to a mocap suit or explore, inside my body.
Right.
So they sent me the data set, and I managed to reassemble my body, 750 slices. I assembled it and then exported one whopping Krakatoa file, one file containing 1 billion particles that make up me, and then I had to go and do a presentation at the company because they want to be able to fly around in 3D inside their particle clouds.
Wow.
Pretty cool stuff actually. And guess what? Xeno Dream saved me. It was like 6 hours to the presentation, and I needed to find a way to, I can't exactly remember the format, but it was like load in some format and then export it to another. And Xeno Dream was the only tool that I found
could handle that many points.
That could just do that transformation. So Xeno Dream saved my bacon, and I went there, just with an iPad and showed them how they can fly around in real time. I can send you the link as well. Pretty cool. But back to the thing here. So here we have the point cloud export. If we now wanted to do a 3D print of this shape, I mean, it probably wouldn't print too well, but I wanted to do it before our interview here, our meeting. But let's just say, we'll go back here. Let's just say we wanted to 3D print this, if that was possible, with a resin printer or whatever now. You would go here, mesh export, and the magic number is, where did the mouse go? The magic number is this one, the mean grid size. This is where this controls the resolution. And the highest, because since it's a 32-bit program, you cannot go insanely high. Unfortunately, it's really sad because I would love to be able to export higher, more resolution, but
more
really
data,
it's enough. So depending on the shape and depending what it is, I usually go to, let's say, 500. I think you can even, if we say 1,000, then we start seeing the object memory use. You cannot always count on that. Let's say 1,200. I've never managed to go above 1,200, and that's really high detail. But so for this, for our little test here, let's just do 333. Yes, and we click generate. there, and now it's like going through the calculation until this can cook forever. The longer you leave it, the more detail goes in there. But it already looks pretty clean to me, so I'll just stop it. And it again depends very much on which modifiers you're using. Then you can fill the interiors. We won't bother about that now. We'll just click the triangulate. And again here, if you have some really complex stuff, it might crash, whatever. But no, this is looking pretty okay, I would say.
That looks sick.
It does look
considering,
sick.
I mean, considering, you just literally just like, iterated the torus
just
with some
quickly,
things. Quickly, you're getting a very interesting shape.
The insanely cool thing, and this has been another holy grail that we worked on for, well, I didn't work. I was just like nagging Garth about it and trying some really, really complex workarounds with the Xeno Dream and like remapping particles data. It now has this magic button, generate vertex colors. And it's magic. It just is incredible. Then you stop it, and you have the colors on your mesh.
Wow. And the vertex is
seriously, exactly.
So no UVs.
So, it only, well, you no UVs, but it vertex colors it, and it only works with PLY. But you can export these, and you can go really, really high on the quality. I mean, I won't bother firing up 3D Max right now for this one, but you could load it into Cinema or to whichever
Blender
tool you want. Blender, Houdini, or Notch even. Or some program we've never even heard about. Colorized mesh display. Yeah.
Super cool.
So I think that kind of wraps it up. Maybe I should just quickly go through some of the, because it's very cool when you go to open parameters, you can go through and see what's in the file.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just managed to go into, where did I put it? Pictures. It's in there. So here, these are actually some files I just quickly dug up on the hard drive. I moved them to the side. Some of the original Retina files. Here's actually a 3D print I wanted to do for you yesterday. And I printed it. It is printed. And it worked without too much printing hassle. Let's just put this into detail mode. Okay. Might not be that different. So here we have another retina type thing. Here's another eye that I created. I animated that. So here are the original ones. And here's where a fractal came. I think it's a cove bulb, which gives it almost like a tribal mask type look.
Yeah.
Here's
I love that one. Can you fly around this one?
Yeah, totally. Let's open this.
I love the depth of it. You know what I mean? It like has this very beautiful.
It is a 3D object, as you can see here.
Yeah, look at that.
You can even view this stereoscopic.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
It's pretty insane. I mean, this is one of the files that comes with Xeno. But so I did nice. Because when I realized, oh wow, this is really cool. If you just center the camera, it looks almost like an eye, but like a trippy eye. I did some animations based on this file, and I don't think you've seen it, Alan. It's
wild.
It's so wild. It's so wild. But I'll just show you a couple of them here. Where were we? Open parameters. And this one really is, when I started playing with this, just changing the parameters a little bit over 1,000 frames, and you get these super duper cool animations going on. Like machines, compasses from the future.
Yeah, like some interesting map. Super fascinating.
So that's it. That is it. And again, like a really good thing to do is to explore the Xeno Dream X samples. One of my all-time favorites. Is it not in here anymore? For some reason, it's been moved. But yeah, look at some of these fractals. It's actually now it's in transparent mode. It might be better to view them like open parameters. This one I've 3D printed. Pretty insane.
Some shell mandelbulb kind of situation.
Yeah. Lots of different files to play around with. Organic.
So, would you recommend people like go check out, I mean, obviously you would recommend people to go check out Xenomorph, but if they wanted to get access to XDX, is it on the website? Can you get access to the new version?
You would have to
Contact Garth.
Garth Fonson. You can find his thing. Maybe, because since it's just before release, maybe he's willing to open up to more testers. But I mean, the first old version of Xeno is just as fun to play with. From a
there's a free version, I think, too, right? Pretty sure.
Maybe there's a free version, a demo version, but it's not that expensive. It's
trial.
Like,
there's a trial
it's
version.
$100 or, yeah, there's a trial. The XDX, yeah, obviously I would, definitely, because it has these interesting new features like coloring coloring the mesh and stuff, and yeah.
Killer.
Hello?
I'm here.
I just thought my headset died. The sound became all weird.
Killer, dude. Thank you so much for showing us that.
But
you're the
pleasure, a real pleasure.
You're the type of person that really, like, anything you express and show to us is going to be fascinating. And I'm happy that we started off here, so that the next time we sit down, we can go into even more interesting things.
Absolutely.
So
really, such a pleasure. I'll just put on this video here in the background. I guess that
please.
Makes sense. Just while we conclude the.
Oh, we're just getting started. No, I'm just kidding. I have some good questions for you now. This is gonna be fun.
Okay.
So first, I want to start with kind of what we've been, alluding at a lot, which is kind of like the organic nature of the digital realm, and kind of the intersection of those. This is a question that I've asked. I asked Julius, and he had a very interesting answer. But for yourself, you kind of dive very deep into multi-dimensions and kind of, altered states of reality. And, you also have a very strong belief, and I mean, I don't want to paraphrase for you, but you have a strong belief in entities and kind of like the idea of another realm. When you sit late at night, deep into these fractal universes, deep into these fractal softwares, when you're playing with all these parameters, do you ever feel like a sense of an entity interaction? Do you ever feel like a contact from the, it is a digital realm, right? But
I have to say, I do. I mean,
know.
Where else? Sometimes it's even like I said, earlier, like almost like I'm a channel for this to manifest or to come into the world. A really good example is I don't know if you saw the carpets that I'm producing at the moment.
You showed it to me briefly.
So there's a certain pattern. Yeah. So it was really early fractal, but on GPU in After Effects with the Pixel Blender toolkit. And I was so lucky that I got my hands on Subblue's Theta Octa Icosa KIFS formula. And I think nobody had that formula, basically, for sure. Well, maybe the Machine Infinitum guys, but it was really limited to who was actually playing with this. And then on GPU, 15 years ago, in After Effects, bang, 1 second per frame. But I just got like black stuff on the screen. Well, I got the basic stuff, but not what I wanted to see really. And it started annoying me. I was like, oh yeah, okay, leave that alone, do something else. But then it came to me just one night where I kind of was just dozing off in bed, and then it hit me, okay, it has to be type 3, it has to be from that angle. Went back to the computer like almost sleepwalking, sat down, ding, ding, ding. And then the pattern that is actually the one that I'm doing for the carpet
came to you.
One that it just came to me, and it's I don't know if you're still sharing my screen.
I am.
Yeah. This one.
Beautiful. This is a classic pattern of yours, no?
It is a classic pattern. That, of course, that one that I showed had some errors. So here it should load in a better quality. So this is the one that came up on my screen, and I'm like, okay, this cannot be a coincidence that I just hit like the center point of the, Peruvian shamanic ayahuasca, Shipibo tradition. And even not just that, but I've been, spoke to a guy, this was exhibited in Berlin, and there was a guy that had a lot to do with African culture. He was like, hey, yeah, you need to speak to the tribe of somewhere down in South Africa, and it's like their houses look like this.
Wow.
So it's, how can it be this infinite intelligence that's behind these patterns and these fractals, the machine code basically exists
in all these cultures,
in nature, and then inside a computer chip as well, and whatever. I'm very, when I look at this, and the more I look at it, it's just like a code. It's like a DNA, but on another level, or maybe it is
totally.
DNA.
Well, I mean, I've spoken about this before on the show, but the Shipibo, the patterns that they kind of are drawing are actually drawn by the women in the tribes, and they're not, the women traditionally, they don't drink the ayahuasca. They actually dream, and their dreams are kind of what fuels the Icaroses, and therefore the Shipibo patterns. So to me, that's like a very clear sense of like a download happening. It's not like there's no coincidence that all the women in the tribe are having the same visions and the same, they're seeing the same thing. This must mean, that there is a shared conscious experience that they're all having. And this is, McKenna talks about this a lot as well, of like, in different places around the world, you'll have similar experiences with altered states. What does that mean? Is there a shared consciousness? True. Is there a shared, soup that we're all kind of going into? And I personally believe that there is some sort of collective human thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. But it's clear to me, like, even like the simple thing of like you come up with an idea and then all of a sudden you see it in a movie like 2 years later, right? And you're like, but that's like an original idea that I had. Like, how could that be, And it's like, it's not like nobody's listening to me, but it's like
this is the look we're after.
But it's like, it's and in science, this happens a lot where there'll be a discovery and then there'll be the same discovery somewhere else in the same time, or in a similar time. And it's like, that means that it either means that like our brains are all the same, which I find that hard to believe, or that like the place where we're downloading information from, ideas, is shared, or is quantum and it's like entangled in some way. I mean, like, the idea of quantum spirituality, what does it mean to you? Like, what is the idea that, that we exist here, but there's multi-dimensions of other versions of us somewhere else having the same podcast and, in different languages and different things. How does it, please?
Yeah, I mean, to sum it up, or to just, I'll do it by playing a video with these words. And it was a download that came to me one evening, one night. It was really clear that it was like being hit by a ray of light from above, and it kind of just somehow floored me over the course of half an hour, 1 hour, where I just got like words, pictures, images of like, prisms, triangles, how to do it, how to kind of, build the future somehow. And all these words, they just came down into my brain to the point where I was like, please, overgodly, alien race or whoever's sending this, stop. I've had enough. So, and then I put it together, and I used this for the Boom Festival, which was pretty cool. And
I remember this. I remember this one.
There's some hidden code in there, like somehow, but this is what came down.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's really powerful.
It's like no, please, you go first.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the words now. Yeah, I don't know what to say really. It's somehow what we need to do. Really, we know what it's about. Really, just remembering it, and you can see for yourself.
How, and this is like a very big question. It just came to me now while watching this. How do we, as a society, maybe let's go smaller. How do we as artists, how do we as, thought people that are kind of like taking ideas and concepts and making them visual, how do we make a better impact on the world? Like, how do we create, obviously, like, okay, when somebody is inspired by our work or somebody sees the things that we do and has an idea, that's like already making the world a better place, right? But like, what is the mechanism? Like, how do we structure it in a way that benefits the universe, benefits the human race? Like, we're in such a weird place now in the world. We're in such a fucking, all these wars, all these crazy shit that's happening. Like, what is our...
It makes me think of Timothy Leary. He's been a big inspiration as well. I've been reading his books, and I forget which book. Maybe it was Info Psychology, which is a super great book, by the way. I keep losing it, but I have it, and I even have like handwritten notes in it. And it told, he has this thing about smile, but then with I in second, with exponent. I don't know how you say that, but so space migration, intelligence increase, life extension. These are like the three major fields.
Say that one more time.
Space migration, intelligence increase, life extension. So according to Info Psychology, to Mr. Leary, society goes through different phases. First, it's a passive phase. Then it becomes it's passive. Let's say with electronic TV and stuff. Back in the 50s, 60s, it was black and white. We were just sitting there watching. At some point, it becomes like you start communicating with it, and at the third stage, it just melds together completely, so you can't tell the difference between
reality and
perceiving it or being in it. So, and there's like the electrical, biological, and atomic level of it, and we're kind of at the end of we're at the point where we are fusing with the
machine,
physical technology. Next step that is kind of organic, learning how to code stuff and build DNA computers and stuff like that, reprogram cells. At the third level, about, first, and we already have hints of that, passively we understand the atomic realm, and also we can interact with it and create bombs and stuff, but to actually manipulate matter at the atomic, subatomic level, that's probably still some years off before that's consumer tech.
Yeah.
But okay, the long story short was that he says that it's a... what's the word? When it's like, compares it. That's not the word for it. Compares humanity, civilization, to an ant hive. The Earth as an ant hive. Only when the synergy is like when every little ant is doing exactly what it has to do without question. Right. It's like the ultimate somehow communism or centralized.
The
queen. Everyone worships the queen ant.
Right.
They just do it without asking questions. They all work as one synergistic being, like a hive mind. That this is where the DNA mutates, and some of the ants then evolve and develop wings, so they can take off and create a new ant hive, or become like pestering your living room if it happens to happen there. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, we really need to work together, and maybe an external enemy is what it takes. I don't know. I don't. It's too late to think about and stuff like that. But for humanity, just to work together, no matter the land, like all boundaries on this planet are imaginary, created by human. That's what I believe. So, I mean, we need to get our together and stop all that stupid low-level stuff. Like. Squabbling over financial control and greed and power. Just like
over land.
That's also why I shadow my work. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna do something crazy now and release 15 years of a lot of mouse clicking. I wish I had a mouse clicker, a mouse click.
See how many clicks you did?
Oh my god! I think I don't know
Trillions.
if I really want to know. Trillions of clicks.
You don't want to know.
But I'll tell you, there's one other thing. I'm not sure you're even aware of this, Ellen, but in that content pack, the Stebbing Visual Arts Library, it's not being hosted by me anywhere. anymore, but I'm sure some people still have it. Hopefully, the idea was that people would, do the torrent and split it of the, I think, is it like 4,000 clips in DXV it contains. There's one frame with a QR code hidden away.
Really?
No one found it yet.
What is it? It's Bitcoins? What is it?
No.
You can't tell? It's secret?
You start looking. It's
I
the
love
key to the
that.
future, Alan. It's the key to the future.
The VJ treasure hunt of the century. Find the QR
Yeah.
code and in Martin's
Find the
4,000
QR
clips.
code. Oh my god! One frame.
shit.
I should actually figure out how many frames are there total. It probably in the trillion. I have
Oh
millions,
my
millions.
god. That's
So,
freaking great.
yeah.
Okay.
Happy hunting.
Happy hunting. That's great, dude. That's so great. I wanted to ask you. I have this very strong memory of your old house in Denmark when me and my wife came to visit you guys, and you kind of took us down to the basement with the server rooms, and you're like,
yeah.
just like you super
True.
casually like, oh yeah, I have like 100 GPUs here, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing with all these things? Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what is it?
It was in
And
the
you're
wine.
just
It was in the wine cellar.
yeah, like it was like 10 racks, you know.
Yeah.
And then you show me this like this was a while ago. I think it was like must have been 2018 or 17 or 18 and 19. And then you showed me this visualization of mocap data, and like, and I see this person like walking around and like doing all this stuff, and I'm like, what is this? And you're like, oh yeah, I just put on the suit one day and walked around my house and just like got all the data. And I'm like this guy has 100 GPUs so that he can capture himself doing like mocap of his house,
Exploring the house.
Yeah, it was just like,
Yeah, it's a cool animation, that one. The Lost Robot. It's also
Lost
I think
Robot.
in the Stebbing visual library.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Let me find it. Let's just watch it.
You just blew my mind of just like the possibilities of like dedicating your life and dedicating your time to this exploration of art, and this kind of like fuse of technology. Like it's so unique,
there we
Martin.
go.
Like Lumi, it's so unique, like it's such it's such a powerful. Oh wait, I'm the wrong one. It's such a powerful kind of exploration, and really it comes back to the same idea of like releasing it all for free, releasing it all to the public. Is like it's like that's the culmination, right, of like your like you said, your life's work.
Yeah. It really
Like,
is.
do you realize how
me my life to produce it? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you realize the power of this? Like, do you realize the like the implication of that?
I do, and somehow it's also just like being a whirlwind of what happened, and I'm not really going to go into full detail with it, but I ended up actually releasing my entire life work from a hotel room, hiding. I had to escape because people they couldn't understand it. They're like, no, you have to sell it. And my tax advisor was like, no, you can't do that. Watch me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it away for free. And everyone's like, no. So it actually, long story short, everyone basically turned against me. My own family, basically. And, that's how I felt. They wanted me locked up because you just can't do that. That's insane.
Right.
So I escaped and I released it from a hotel room in Lisbon.
Yeah, this is the Great Escape. I mean, this is a movie in the making for sure.
It is.
Maybe we
There
can.
is actually a movie it's being worked on. There's
It's
a
being worked on.
documentary about me.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about your name change. This kind of ties in some way. Yeah, please. Like share what you want.
Yeah, it's also the same kind of thing that happened because, I mean, after clicking all those trillions of clicks, and so I got involved with the Netflix production with Mitch Schultz. That was like all the way during COVID. I was so happy to actually have a job there and work on this production. But it was hard work sitting in lockdown and just coming up with these like, okay, I need to build an alien language like computer. How would that work? And then it turned into this whole thing, how that interacts with the human retina and stuff. And yeah, oh, there's so much to tell, but yeah, I got hacked. I lost everything 2 weeks before Mitch was coming to Copenhagen. So that's why it didn't happen. There was a virus on the chip of the server that I just like spent 6 months clearing everything up. So that was a bit of a bummer that kind of somehow spearheaded a whole massive transformation of me then leaving Copenhagen, going to Portugal. But yeah, there was lots of hotel rooms, moving at night only, that kind of stuff, It felt a bit like a James Bond movie or some ninja stuff. So, but then when I get to Portugal and yeah, there have been it's really, yeah. I look forward to seeing the documentary myself. There's lots of footage I haven't even seen myself because there were certain metaphysical things going on, things that I had only heard about that suddenly started happening. That was, it's like no joke what's going on. The spiritual world that we're in somehow. So yeah, at that time, then I have a session with a healer from Sicily, and she was very surprised. Well, actually, before at a fusion festival, I met a Danish woman, a numerologist, and she was like, "What's your name?" "Oh, is your name Martin Jeffrey Stebbing?" "Oh my God! Oh, poor you. That's pretty bad." Martin Stebbing says, that's okay, but the Jeffrey somehow adds up in quite a bad way. Again, it's a long story, but I ended up changing my name to rid myself of some karmic and energetic things, connected to my name. And you'll be like, "How's that working out for you?" Well, a lot of people are like, "What's your name now? Looney? Looney? Or Numi," which is another in Danish, definitely, kind of a thing you probably don't want to be called. So, but I like the name Lumi. It's it means snow in Finnish. It means it's also Latin basically for luminescence and lux. And the funny thing is, the first 5 places I stayed in Portugal, without planning it, all had the name Lux in them. Pretty weird. Like, so I stayed at Lux Park, then I stayed at the Lumiere Hotel, then I rented an Airbnb called Lux Lapa, a safe home. Yeah, I was happy about that safe home thing because this is where some stuff went down, And then I went down to visit our beautiful friends, even in Barbara.
Yeah.
Down in South Portugal, and yeah, they live in
beautiful place.
Luz de,
oh yeah, that's right. They live in that.
No, not Tavira. They live in Prada Luz.
Yeah, Prada Luz. Yeah.
Yeah, and I stayed in Tavira Luz before that. So, and actually driving down the road to that place, there was, I don't know what you call it, but when you see this light beam going up from the sun, as it's setting, it's like what you see in the Star Wars posters and stuff.
Okay.
And it was just spectacular. So yeah, I kind of decided this has to be my new home down here in the light.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, but I still, as I said, there's a grace period. People still call me Martin, and my company is still called Stebbing Art. So yeah, I kind of like the Stebbing name.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some way, it's almost like the name changes for you, right? It's not necessarily for like the external, right? Like, I guess it is in a weird way, but it's like you said, it's your karma, right? Like your karma that you're trying to change. So it's like the changing of the name doesn't really rely on the fact that people need to call you that per se, right? It's almost like the fact that you did the change is the fix.
Is enough somehow. And like really, I could go on for hours talking about this, but some really, really powerful stuff happened. Like, just when the woman, the psychic woman, she blessed me, and she was like, I was just stepping out of a cab in Copenhagen, and she's like, "You're surrounded by angels. You're surrounded by golden light." I step out of the taxi. First thing I see is Restaurant Angelos. I was like, okay, that's funny. Then my eyes shift to another thing where it says, "Angels will help you." Let
it's
go
a
of
billboard,
the past.
right?
Like, what the fuck? What's happening?
Yeah.
And then later that day, I actually get stopped by the police. I'm driving back to my studio because I, needed to keep working, no rest for the wicked. And he taps the window and they're like, "Hey, sir, did you just see hey, mister," you probably said, "did you just see a flash? Did you just see a red flash?" I'm like, "No, sir, I saw a white flash." And then he just looked at me and he winked with one eye and he said,
beckoned.
"Great. Have a nice life. Such a pleasure to meet you." Clap the car and let me drive on.
Wow.
So whether that's my name change, whether Martin would have had that experience, or whether he would just have been like, "Hey man, so nice to meet you. Go on, Lumi, go get them." So
It's wild.
It's interesting for
So
sure.
you're
Definitely.
obviously a very spiritual person. You have a very strong connection to the divine and kind of, let's use the word God because it's just easy one. Do you, like naturally and subconsciously, I'm sure you infuse it into your art. But what are some quote unquote tips or Lumi paths that you take to infuse the spirit into your art?
Whoa. Well, I mean, it's I don't know if it's too late for a question like that, but no, it's just something that really comes into mind that it's been really central to what's been going on with me is the light and the dark. So the two sides of the same thing, basically.
Right.
Or are they the same thing? God and the devil, day, night, it's like sweet, sour, spicy, non-spicy, all this dualism, man, woman. When really, are we just one that just manifests itself? And that's why I came up on the whole dark suck, the whole dark suck theory. And I heard about it some years ago, but then suddenly it just made perfect sense in a moment because it happens on not just a physical level with, light sources sending out light. Let me explain what dark suck theory is.
Yes, please.
It's the theory that light sources do not send out light. They suck darkness.
Oh.
It's some pretty complex math somehow.
I love that idea.
What's going on? So the brightest object in the universe, it's not sending out a lot of light.
Or it's just sucking in dark.
A black hole. It's a black hole that sucks in dark matter.
Beautiful.
And the other way around, And it's really interesting because suddenly it also dawned on me that also works on the spiritual level. So the more light you hold, let's just mention Jesus, for instance. The more shit you have to go through, and he ended up in a not very pleasant thing, That's one example, and there are lots of other examples. So the more light a person carries, and internally in the soul crystal or the soul grid, the more the forces of evil are attracted to suck that light out or to come and suck it. And I actually got the domains, and it could be this whole hip thing like, "Hey man, did you dark suck today? Hey, let's go dark suck." And so just go dark sucking is to, if there's like a loose piece of rock on the road that someone might stumble over, you just fix it. You dark suck. You suck up some darkness of the world.
Beautiful.
And if everyone did that, we would be in hyperspace much sooner than if they looked.
For sure. No, I love that concept, and it kind of does speak volumes to kind of like how we understand reality, or at least how spirituality is perceived in like modern culture and even in ancient cultures, like the idea of like the light in the tunnel, right? Like there is no light without darkness, right? There is no darkness without light. They're both, like you said, they're intertwined, they're together. They're maybe even, they are the same side of the coin, or a different side of the coin. And therefore, like, I always look at the tunnel, like the tunnel analogy of like, you're in the darkness, and or I should say, like the analogy of like, okay, there's even if you're in a dark place, right, there's darkness around you, right? At the edge of that darkness, there's going to be maybe a thin veil of light, right? Because they have to be together, right? You can't have darkness without a tiny flicker of light, because otherwise it wouldn't be darkness. It just would be, it just doesn't make sense, right? You have to have the one and the other to have both.
It would suck, basically.
Yeah. So like the idea that even if you're in darkness, there's like a thin veil of light around you. If you think about it, it's really like a game, right? Because if you just flip that around, then all of a sudden the thin light is around you and the darkness is on the outside. And I like to think about that, because to me it reminds me that like even if I'm depressed or if I'm down, or the wars and everything that's going on, it's on the outside of me, and on the thin veil that's closest to me is the light, is the small amount of light in the darkness, so that even if I'm in this tunnel, I'm almost like, it's almost like I'm looking at the tunnel from the light part. Do you know what I mean? So like I don't realize that if I turn around, I'll see the light, right? Because I only see like a very small amount of the light. But it kind of reminds me that like that it's always there. It's always present. It's always attainable, and it makes it easier to kind of like, being depressed and being sad is not a bad thing. These are functions of like our psyche, and they're important, right? Crying is a release, and all emotions are good. There's no negative emotions. That's like a very Freudian idea. It's stupid. So like that flip, of like, okay, I'm releasing my sadness, I'm releasing my anger, and now that it's released, I just look around and, oh, I'm actually in the light. I'm not in the darkness,
Yeah. And everything is much easier suddenly.
And everything's much easier. Yeah. It's the same. Yeah, for sure. And the dark suck is that as well, right? It's like, I'm not producing light. I am light, and I'm sucking in the darkness.
Yeah. That's the way.
I love it.
It's really, really interesting. If this theory came out, like, I think somewhere back in the 90s, I haven't looked really much into it, but I have looked up the brightest object in the universe. And, that's quite...
What is it?
A dark sucker.
What is the brightest object in the universe? It's a sun or something?
I can't remember exactly. I think it's a pulsar or something, but they might just have discovered one that's even brighter. And I can't even remember the values they measure this in, but it's it's
bright as
the
fuck.
opposite of... Yeah, it's bright as fuck. It's sucking a lot of darkness.
It's like, yeah, I mean, well, that James Webb telescope, right, that new one that they just released, is like, it's shattering so many... I mean, I don't understand the actual physics of it, but from what I saw and read, that it's shattering a lot of the way we understand things, right? Like how long the universe is, how old the universe is, and I just love that. I love that about science, that it's like there's no dogma, that it's like it's all, it could all be, and you have to prove it, and you have
ultimate. It's the ultimate, like, a tech geek freak fantasy or nightmare, building something that it takes 20 years and billions of dollars to build, and it has to unfold remotely. Incredible. I know. I saw a documentary about it. They had some trouble with it. It's oh my god, like this
it's a really crazy one.
Also interesting.
Which one?
ITER reactor they're building in France, the ITER. They're building like a synthetic sun. I think if they've been building it for 70 years, the people who started the project are long gone.
Dead.
They're dead.
Yeah. That's wild. Old. That's like the CERN. What is it called? The particle reactor kind of thing.
Yeah. It's close to same area, and it's like really they're like gonna. I can't remember when they're gonna achieve first light, as they call it, when they turn on the artificial
sun. So like emulating like the Big Bang in a way.
Emulating the sun.
Like the birth of the sun?
I think it's just emulating our sun. If this
for
works,
what? For
it's
power?
A little bit like it's a little bit like a tokamak reactor. The Germans they suddenly turned on a machine called the Wellenbad machine. That nobody really heard about it. They did, obviously, and then it's like, next week we will turn on our new synthetic plasma sun.
We can't wait.
You'll see what happens. No. Just the rest of the world, you can just sit there while they turn on their machine that might,
Germans turning on machines is a little bit scary.
Yeah, it is actually. But,
It's Target's owns these Jews.
Having lived in Germany, without saying too much, I'm fascinated by the way they, the way they kind of, ran the festivals and the whole party scene. It's why I moved there, actually. It was partly for love, but partly because of, a fusion festival. Going there and being like, wow, this is cool. Nobody is really being a jerk. There's no rape. Nobody steals stuff from each other. You lose your tent. You confide in the lost and found. People are generally helpful.
You think that's kind of like the dark sucking, like the World War II Nazi thing sucked, like the darkness was so apparent that when it went away, then it's like this rebirth of light.
Yeah, could be. The whole German party scene, and I lived right in the middle of it for like 13 years. I never partied as little as people thought when I left Copenhagen that I was going to die down there. Like, I'm sure many, people have, if not died, then come back with, a bit of a damaged nervous
cerebral
system, or, a hole in the pocket, or a hole in the brain, or whatever, just a hole in the pets. Something happens in Berlin, but I just started working instead because it was in the middle of all that, and I could see the wall from my studio, from my bedroom window.
Wow!
While I heard the thumping 24/7 party beat just outside. So definitely, and the liberalism. That's also what I really like about Germany, and well, not Germany, but the scene in Berlin, that you can be whoever the fuck you want to be, as long as you don't. Hurting other people. And I think that really goes, I don't care what people think, what they believe. They can, for my sake, believe whatever, as long as they just mind their own business, go to their basement if they want to do rituals involving, I don't know, other arts or something. Without saying too much.
Well, I think that's a really potent place to end. We should all be so lucky to be able to be and act and do whatever we want, as long as it doesn't hurt other people without any restriction. I totally agree. I think that's like to me and you, it's very common, right? It's obvious, right? It's obvious. Like it's obvious. Like, do what you want without hurting other people. Yeah. Done.
Do as
easy.
You'll be done by, is what my dad said all the time.
Do as you'll be done by. That's
do as you'll be done by.
Do as you'll be done by. Yeah, it's from the Old Testament, I think. But I know it as don't do to others what you wouldn't want to be done to you.
No, and this actually brings me very much to an exciting point that I didn't forget, but it was I think when I was in Portugal, even was there, and he actually told me what it means in Lakesh Alakin. It was the Mayan greeting. Mm-hmm. I am the other you. Mm-hmm. And that is really where I started. Lumi you, Lumi me. I'm the other you. Where I see if I treat myself badly, it damages you. If I treat you badly, it damages me. Mm-hmm. If we all treat each other, and that really
so potent.
Is such a potent thing. I'm the other you. It's like, yes, we are one thing. We are one creature. That's
it's like the God inside, right? Like we are. That proves, right? That notion, that potent notion, proves that we are all the same thing, and that God, the idea, whatever you want to call it, spirit, whatever, is the same thing everywhere. And like that we're just, we're just like the ants, right? In the massive global godliness of everything. And like if I was what we need to grow wings, I mean it can get squirrely, like you said, with communism and stuff, but I feel like the base notion that we're all connected, that like, and it comes back to like the consciousness, the global consciousness is like the hive mind, right? And we're just pulling ideas from it, and as long as I don't like, it's not about me like being a worker ant, right? It's more of like, as long as I realize that like I'm part of a bigger thing. I'm part of this bigger hive, right? And I have my function and I have my role. As long as I adhere to the base notion of like, if I mess up this thing, it's going to mess it up for everybody else, then, that's like a beautiful society, really.
Yeah. If you're like, I want 2 portions of ant food instead of just 1. you know, then that's where the problem starts rising. The greed, basically, the problem.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Martin, Lumi, Mr. Khan, I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. I
love you as well.
You know, I'm really happy you took the time. Thank you, dude.
Yeah, thank you as well.
What a wonderful episode. I can't express how much I'm thankful for Martin Lumi coming on the podcast, spending his time with me, and really sharing some super potent and high octane ideas. Thank you so much to Mantis Mash for the intro and outro music. Next week we have an awesome guest. He's a Unity boy. See you next week.